good evening, everyone. Welcome back to WOR World Online Racing League here for Tier 1 once again on the PC side, where we head off to Las Vegas for round 9 of the championship. Of course, we've had a very close championship so far, and of course we head to a rather chaotic track on many occasions, and in quali, very close indeed. So I'm sure the action will be really interesting here tonight. So I'm Nathan Richards. In the commentary box alongside me is Joseph Black. Once again, Joseph, welcome back, because you joined in for me last time and you're joining in for Dan this time. How are you doing?
Doing very well. I'm glad for once not to be Richie F1. That's my favourite takeaway from the start of this one. I've actually got my tag below. It's incorrect. It's out of date, but that's what it is because, I've not updated it in a while. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to be back in Las Vegas. I mean, it can throw up an absolute thriller. So yeah, looking forward to see what WOR has for it this evening.
Certainly, and of course the standings are very close indeed, and we have a new driver taken to the top of the standings for the first time in their career. Julian Klaffenbach on 85 points now leads 10 ahead of Nicholas Longue in second place. Of course, if you remember, Nicholas took 3 wins in 3 races. Well, unfortunately, he's not scored any points since, so he will be starting still in second place, ahead of Ismail Fassi in third, Jarno Otmir fourth, and Shanika Clay reigning off the top 5. We have Otis Lawrence in P6 ahead of Tamas Gal in 7th, alongside Joris Krozen in 8th, with Ruben Pedreño in 9th and Reese Linton in the top 10. And unfortunately, Joseph, I need to quickly restart my game because it hasn't loaded properly. It's crashed, so once again, we've got another issue. But would you like to give us a quick run through the calendar if you have it up with you?
I certainly can. I mean, this calendar confirmed halfway through the season, but of course, it's going to take us to the end of it, and we are coming towards the end of it now. Only 4 rounds after this one to round off our 13-round season. Las Vegas, of course, is where we will be heading tonight in PC Tier 1, and that's going to be followed up by Abu Dhabi, generally the finale, but this time it's being thrown in midway through the season, I think, where it belongs, if I'm honest with you. And then Great Britain, a very different circuit. Abu Dhabi, much tighter. Great Britain, much more open, much more flowing. There's many more overtaking opportunities. And so while drivers might have to take that risk at Abu Dhabi and Las Vegas, it's going to be a bit more fluid at Great Britain. Belgium, pretty similar situations, Spa-Francorchamps. Britain and Belgium, 2 very historic circuits. They'll be rounds 11 and 12. And then to round off the season, it's going to be Bahrain, as it stands, at least, hopefully. The issues will get fixed. But we're going to be finishing off in Asia, but just not quite the Asia that we would be expecting. But it's the last round in the Americas this evening. We had Mexico City last week. We have Las Vegas this week, and it's going to round off our October. And, well, I think it's going to be a very good race around Las Vegas. There's slipstream fest down the back straight, but at the same time, you're not really going to be able to make overtakes when there's so many drivers with the DRS down there. So you're going to have to force one maybe at the end of that straight into the chicane, at the end of one of the straights at the very least. So I think they're going to have to work a bit harder than it seems.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, we was over at the Rival League last night at Las Vegas. Of course, we followed the PSG calendar, and strategy was key for many drivers in that race. And of course, we did see some brilliant battling. Surprisingly, turn 5 was a hot spot for overtaking, which is not normally a page you expect to see drivers going for moves. But of course, we will have a quick look at the results from last time out in Mexico. Of course, round 8, it was Otis Lawrence that took the win ahead of Julian Klaffenbach in second, and I believe a first podium for one of our reserve drivers. Angelo D'Ortenzio has been absolutely on fire so far here on F125. It was Shanika Clay with a very good finish in 4th ahead of Joris Krozen running off the top 5. Then we had Jarno Otmir in P6, followed by Tygo Hardy, Lucas Blakely, Jan Halliday, and then Duncan Hoffland rounding off the top 10. And I've been told to turn myself up a tad, and the issue is I'm already on max volume, so I'm going to have to try and mess with the settings quickly. But of course, Joes, if you was here last time out, give us a rundown. What happened in Mexico?
Certainly was. Well, ignoring the Thomas Ronhaar incident that happened about halfway through the race, it was, I mean, there was a safety car towards the end of it which just really threw things out of proportion. Otis Lawrence, Julian Klaffenbach, D'Angelo D'Ortenzio turned it into an incredible race right at the very end. It was a very good spectacle to watch, and it felt as though a few more laps and we could have seen those top 3 in a completely different order. That was just the way that it stacked up at the end of the race, but it felt as though Klaffenbach and Hortensio could have taken that victory, but Otis Lawrence in the end just managed to prevail. He managed to get the exit out of the S's on Klaffenbach, and that was the difference that they needed to make. Of course, heading down to the sort of DRS area that they would have been in, but it was just a very, very good race nonetheless, and it provided so much action pretty much all the way throughout the course of the race. It was non-stop, more or less, and I mean, at the end of the race, as I say, we could have gone for 10 more laps, and we could have had an opportunity to really see a 3-car battle for the race lead, which hopefully we're going to get the chance to see this evening.
Certainly. I'm kind of hoping we are, of course. In PSGL, we had 2 teammates at the front of the field, and then for a moment there was also 2 teammates in 3rd and 4th, so it did make the racing for the lead quite dull. Of course, when you're 2 kick-sabers at the front, you're not going to allow anybody else to get through, and also you're not going to battle yourself. So hopefully we have a couple of different teams fighting at the front of the field. I've managed to relaunch the game, so I'm hoping that we can load in very, very shortly. Of course, we are going to be in qualifying already, but at this point in time, of course, we are having the intermediate tyre runs, so nothing, I presume, is going on at all on track, Joseph?
No, you had 3 cars come out, 3 cars go back in. Thomas Runhaas retired, so he's going to be starting from the back again. That's going to be an interesting one with the back straight, especially to see whether he's going to be able to fight his way through.
Yes, certainly. And I mean, this track, it's an interesting one. It's one we've been to, I think, every season since it was released in the game in F124. Was it in F124? I think it was, wasn't it?
Vegas?
Yeah, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was in
I'm starting to
F124.
forget now. Yes, it's been here every season then, because we've only had a couple since the beginning of the last failed game. And yeah, it's always delivered some sort of action, whether it's in qualifying or in the race. But I think another thing to mention as well is for tonight, of course, we have a very competitive grid. We've got a few drivers who we don't often see in Tier 1. So that means qualifying, you're going to see a few upsets in Q1 and Q2, I'd imagine.
I really think you will, and we saw that last week. Benche Zabo-Konyi actually went out in the first qualifying session because he didn't make it to the line, so there's drama like that. And we did have a couple of drivers as well who went out in Q2 just like that, just really randomly, just dropping out, and it was a real surprise to see a couple of the names that dropped out, and a real surprise to see a couple of the names up the very top of the field. Jan Halliday was in and around the top in Q1 and Q2, so it was a really, really good opportunity for the Czech driver to show what he can do. And well, I mean, different drivers favour different circuits, so maybe he might not be the one, the reserve, to show himself up at the top of the field, but maybe it'll be the opportunity for someone else who's not quite shown himself at the top just yet to really demonstrate their abilities. Of course, Las Vegas, completely different circuit to Mexico, so I mean, we'll wait and see, but this grid is particularly strong this evening. There's not too many drivers I'd be too shocked to be at the top.
Certainly, and I'm now joining the session, then I should be able to load in and then get underway for qualifying. There we go. So we've got, 10 minutes left, 11 minutes left in the session, so I might be here just before they go out for their first run. So as I like to call it, organised chaos. I think that's a perfect word for it. I should be a bit louder as well, my end. I've turned my mic up to the maximum. The only issue is that when I turn it up to the max, it tends to peak. So if I end up causing a little bit of harm to your ears, I am very sorry in advance. But it's time to enter into qualifying. Perfect timing, because we're not going to see the intermediate runs. We're going to go straight with the soft tyres. And I can see there, Thomas Ronhaar has taken to the disqualification. So I'm not sure if he's planned to do that, or maybe if he had a qualifying ban himself.
Well, this is what he did last week. He just decided to retire. I think he likes fighting with the back. I think he's a big fan of Rocket League, so that's going to be getting some practice in. But yeah, you've timed it perfectly. Jan Halliday just coming out of the pits just now.
Indeed. We're going to get everything up on our screens. We have Jan Halliday on track in his remake of an Aston Martin. Of course, I believe he's in the Aston Martin here this evening. And of course, we'll be able to see what he can do. He's been here for a very, very long time in the F1 League racing community. But I'd say at the end and the conclusion of 2023, he kind of managed to jump himself up to a Tier 1 reserve driver, and nowadays takes part pretty much every week here in WOR Tier 1. So great to see Jan back on the grid here. And of course, a driver always looking for points. And for him, this is a big opportunity because, of course, Aston Martin, there's a little bit of doubt of what that lineup will be. Of course, we've had Otis Lawrence depart, Fabrizio Genoso departed. So at the moment, there tends to be only one driver that we can think of, which is Duggan Hoffland. Somebody needs to take that second seat, and Jan Halliday will be looking to, bite his finger off at this opportunity to take, that second seat potential, or even take the third seat. Any seat for him would be brilliant. So for him, he needs to get some good results here and possibly in PSGL to prove his worth on the grid.
He certainly will, and I think he has a great opportunity to make his way onto that grid. I know that his esports team has a decent number of links to particularly Aston Martin, so I think if there's anyone that's going to be in that car next year, I do really think that Jan Halliday has a great opportunity, but he needs to demonstrate his worth before he makes his way out there, because of course they did sign a couple of years ago Otis Lawrence to that team, and we saw how that one ended up. So it's going to be a really, really huge task and a really, really huge name for him to live up to. But the pace that he's showing so far this season, it certainly promises. It certainly demonstrates that I think he might be their guy.
Yeah, definitely. And talking of another driver that I'm actually quite surprised by in terms of their recent performances is Daniele Parodi, a driver that we kind of saw for a while, then disappeared and came back again and launched straight into Tier 1 after joining the R8G team. And I've got to say, he's done a brilliant job whenever I've seen him in the car. So, yeah, it's great to see Daniele Parodi fitting into the grid. I thought at first, is it a bit of an outlandish driver to take part? But no, he's joined in after a long break and has done a perfect job. But let's have a look at Jan Halliday on his lap, heading down towards the end of the first sector, in towards Sector 2 at 25.8. Jan in that opening sector, a nice lap so far indeed. Of course, around this track you need to utilise as much of the curb as you can. But what we saw from Lucas Blakely over in PSGR last night was sometimes you can't quite cut the curb even though you're not actually outside of the track limits. Here, Lucas Blakely hopped the curb, did never go off track, and it gave him, unfortunately, a lap time invalidation. So the curbs here and the apexes, the drivers have to be careful of.
They very much do. It's going to be very, very risky, I think, for them to jump onto a lot of the curbing that there is on this circuit. Just because, I mean, it's just one of those things. The car is so low because of that straight that it will unsettle it. And, well, you can see Jan Halliday running through now that chicane. That chicane is going to be so crucial. The amount of drivers that get stuck on there, stuck on that first curb, run over the second curb, and find themselves invalidating there. That it's just so many, and Jan Halliday up to the line, 129.652 to kick off proceedings. Jack West goes a 10th and a half behind. He's in second at the moment out of two, and a lot more drivers will be coming to the line very shortly, and we'll get the opportunity to see who goes where and who stacks up. Otis Lawrence a 10th quicker than Jan Halliday, or 800ths to be specific, and Lucas Blakely slowest of all just behind Jack West. Hamish Gal up to the line, and he's going to go into 5th place. He's going to be over a 10th off of the top three, which is now featuring Bencho Zaboconi and Philip Preschneider. And, well, there's just all the times are flying in, and they're all pretty much within the same 3.5 gap between a 29.55 and a 29.9.
Indeed, there's cars absolutely everywhere on track at the moment as Josh Ido goes second place in his Alpine. Up to the line for Julian Klaffenbach, goes quickest by over a 10th, of course. Our championship leader as we look to continue on with laps here in Q1. Jan Halliday 4th, Ismail Fassi jumping up into the top 5 for Ferrari. Istvan Pukki up into P6. We see Angelo D'Ortenzio go quickest with a 29.430. What about Jarno Opmeer? He goes into 11th. Not a promising lap for the Flying Dutchman as the proceedings begin. Shanika Clay didn't set a lap on the board. Neither did Declan Barrett. But I've got to say, looking at the gap so far, it's around 5/10 between 1st and 16th, but you tend to see little groups forming. Of course, you've got the top 2 together, then you've got 4th down towards maybe 10th there, separated by a 10th, then another group further back between Preschneider and Lucas Blakely. So the cars are forming into little groups, and that does tend to make things quite competitive because nobody really, apart from the top 2, is really pulling away from anybody.
It does, and I think that comes down to the slipstream effect. A lot of those drivers set those laps in the mid-pack, and those who set the laps at the start, so take, for example, Jan Halliday, those who set their laps at the end, take Jarno Opmeer, are sort of, they didn't really get the opportunity to really show what they can do. Of course, Jack West sets his lap very early on as well. He finds himself down in 14th place. So they're going to be trying to make the most of that slipstream effect. There's so many long straights, so much advantage that can be taken out of the slipstream here today. And yeah, we'll be seeing them try to take full opportunities. And I think we'll be seeing a lot of improvements from some of these drivers, but not a lot of improvements for some others. Ishmael Fassi gets a five-place grid penalty for a collision with Declan Barrett as they're trying to come into the pits there. I think just having a little bit of a scrap on circuit as they make their way back. This is a little bit what it was like in Mexico last week and Australia a couple of weeks ago. It gets very scrappy out on the circuit, and I think we're going to be seeing that when the drivers get to the end of the qualifying sessions. Otis Lawrence has decided to retire, and I don't think he'll be the only one.
Indeed, and they go 3-1 into the pit lane. It's what was that? Oh no, I thought that was someone retiring then. Somebody hit the barrier. I think it was Julian got hit into the barrier. I thought for a moment he got taken out of the session, but it just happened that somebody decided to retire at the same time he hit the wall. And of course they were all having a battle, but they were in low fuel mode, so they were kind of maxed out at around 140 kph, and then we have one car left to enter the pits, and it will be Jarno Opmeer. P11 currently, of course, if you are in the top 15, you are safe heading through into Q2. We have 3 minutes to go in this session, which means you have 1, maybe 2 runs at maximum, depending on your run plan, to try and make your way through into the second qualifying session. So a lot of pressure sits on Shanika Clay and Declan Barrett, both without times, but then the same can go for the likes of Joris Krozen, who was around 7/10 off the lap time of Angelo D'Ortenzio. And if you know Joris, you know that he's definitely not 7/10 off in pace. He's normally right up there and in towards that top 5. So Joris not with the cleanest lap from him, and the same can go for Tamas Gal, who we normally see right at the top of qualifying. Currently sits 5/10 away from the top spot. But we have a few cars out on track. First one out will be Lucas Blakely, and as of course we all know, he's not had the best start to league racing here on F125, hasn't picked that many points up in his leagues, but as we know with the likes of Freddie Rasmussen in the past, league racing doesn't really mean much, because once they go into esports, they're, you know, all the drivers are pretty much a different beast, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's worth experimenting when you're at this level, because you know that you've got another level of going up. It's like it's like a footballer playing a cup game. They don't really care about to prepare for a league game that they've got later on. It doesn't mean that the cup's any less important, but it just means that the league is what they're trying to focus on. No comment. Absolutely no comment at all. But yeah, I mean, it's of course very, very important for all of these drivers, and they're all about the similar age to what Liverpool's players were last night, weren't they?
All these drivers. I mean, to be fair, they had like what 15, 16-year-olds playing. I think there's a few drivers that are older than that. We're not going to call them out. That's a bit mean, but. Oh dear me.
But yeah, I mean, look, listen, you've always got to have a dig at Liverpool. Anyway, back to qualifying and back to the drivers who are out on the circuit, which is everybody apart from Jack West, who hasn't retired from the session. Those who have are the top 7: Angelo D'Ortenzio, Julian Klaffenbach, Otis Lawrence, Josh Edo, Jan Halliday, Ishmael Fassi and Istvan Pukki. They've all retired. Everybody else is going to go again, apart from what looks like Jack West, who's going to remain in the pit lane. Lucas Blakely will be the first one onto a lap. He's on a 1:29.872 at the moment. That would put him right on the bubble. And, well, he definitely needs to improve, because he's got Gal, Clusen, Clay and Barrett, who are all going to be desperate to improve.
Yes, certainly. Lucas Blakely needs a lot of time here in this session. 15th at the moment. Would a 0.7, maybe a low 0.7, a high 0.6 should see him through in towards Q2. But if he's staying in the 0.8s or only manages around where Jarno Opmeer is currently, that might not be safe at all for Lucas Blakely as he makes his way through the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2, down towards turn number 9. I did see someone in the chat ask, who is Daniele? Daniele's been around for a very long time, just took a big break in F124 and has returned with RHG here for F125. But back with Blakely, heading down towards turn 12. Needs a good entry into there. Of course, he invalidated here last night, but he's made it through this time unscathed, and he has found Joseph 2.5 tenths in that middle sector. That should see him through into around P5, P6, so as Jack West stays 14th.
Was it a little bit too premature for those who are in the 1:29.6s to retire? I think that they're going to get very, very close to the bubble. Jack West becomes the second driver out in Q1. That means there's only 3 spots for everybody else to get out as the checkered flag has waved. Lucas Blakely around the final corner. He's done as much as he can now. He just goes all the way to the line. And what can Lucas Blakely do? It's going to be 129 at 5.77. That puts him up in 4th place. That puts a lot of the drivers who are currently through at risk. The next couple of drivers up to the line, can they improve further up? Benche Zabokonyi is. He's going to be the second one there. Philip Preschneider does not. And so he looks like he might be right on the verge of going out. Duncan Hofland has invalidated on his lap. And so he will not be improving. Joris Krusen is going to come up to the line. It's going to be a 29.649 for him. And so he pushes everybody else just that little bit closer to being out. Tamas Gal coming up to the line as that's going to be Daniele Parodi improving to 15th. He's knocked out. And that's going to be the drivers out of qualifying confirmed. Parodi, Preschneider, Clay and West. And of course Thomas Runhar as well as Jarno Otmir just about survived. But he is on a lap and improving.
Certainly, yep, Jarno Otmir could have been in that drop zone for a moment there, but it luckily does survive in 15th. What does he set on the board? Up to the line, I think he jumped up to 2nd place, if I read that correctly. 3rd, I was close enough. 3rd place there in Q1 for Jarno Otmir, a nice lap at the end to conclude his session. But of course, we can see it was Angelo D'Ortenzio who went fastest, ahead of Julian Klaffenbach. Jarno Otmir 3rd, ahead of Otis Lawrence and Lucas Blakely, the top 5. Then we had Tamas Gal, Josh Ido, Joris Kroesen, Declan Barrett and Jan Halliday, the top 10, followed by Bet Shabakonyi, Ismail Fassi, Istvan Pukki, Duncan Hofland and Tycho Hardy, all making it through to Q2, but unfortunately we did lose Daniele Parodi, Philip Preschneider, Chanaka Clay, Jack West and of course Thomas Ronhart, who chose not to set a lap. He decided to go from the back. So look at the gaps there, just over 0.3 of a second there between the top 15 going through. I think it was just over 4 between the top 18, so very close there at the end of Q1. And heading into Q2, I think once again we're going to see a couple of surprises here going out.
I certainly think that I certainly think that there's a lot of drivers who are going to be at risk. If we took the results from Q1 and implemented them into going out in Q2, which obviously isn't representative, but that would be seeing Ismail Fassi and Istvan Pukki going out, as well as Hofland, Hardy and Bencho Zabokonyi. So there's lots of drivers who may well want to think about their lap times, what they're doing, the mistakes they're making on their lap that are losing them just that little bit of time. It is so incredibly tight between the drivers, as Josh Ido in 7th place and Duncan Hofland in 14th place was split by 700ths of a second. That will be the difference in this Q2 session between going through and going out.
Yep, it certainly could be. And I'm looking in the live chat as well. Robert says, how do the drivers know that they are safe? Where do they get the info from, whether other drivers can or can't go faster? So normally they know what the benchmarks are. They know what lap times drivers going to be looking for. And if you're 2 or 3 tenths clear of 16th, most of the time you're going to choose not to go out. There's no point if you're up in the top 5, top 10. And of course we have races around here like we did yesterday in PSGL and in past seasons, so they have all different data that they can use from previous races, and also the data that they have on their telemetry of what times drivers are doing. So yeah, I mean, it's sometimes a bit of a risk. You see a lot with, from what I can imagine, Nicolas Longuet in the past always goes and retires a little bit audaciously, sometimes makes it through. There was one occasion where he didn't, but on most occasions he does, and you have some drivers that choose to just to go out anyway, even though they know they're safe. So yes, they all know what they're doing, hopefully. Sometimes they don't, but most of the time they do. So we have our drivers out on track. First out will be a blue car. That will be Jarno Otmir, heading down towards turn 16, weaving the car quite heavily. I don't think, Joseph, that would be the Strat IRL, would it? He seemed to turn the wheel quite a lot there.
No, you wouldn't want to. There's a balance to be found between wearing the tyre and warming it up a little bit. And I think on this game, especially in the conditions at night, it gets very, very cold. And Singapore especially, I know, is very, very difficult on that one. Las Vegas haven't done a huge amount of running around, but I know that it's not necessarily the easiest either. So yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act of trying to balance those two things. And of course, you only get 1 or 2% wear from that lap anyway. So it doesn't make that much of a difference, especially if they're going on up to warm tyres, as they may well do in this first run in Q2. Up to the line then for Jarno Otmir in the first little segment, and it's going to be almost bang on a 26 for the car in the lead of the pack. There's a car also right behind of Jan Halliday. He's going to be trying to watch. I don't think he's going to be necessarily thinking about improving it. He's going to try and watch the lines, because of course Jarno qualified in third place. Jan was back in 7th, so any sort of improvements he can find from watching the braking points of the Red Bull car is going to be a benefit.
Certainly, and I thought I'd try a different angle here of Jarno's back. We've thrown on the telemetry so you can see his battery, his speed and his gear, and then of course we took off the timing table so we can see a little bit more of that blue Red Bull remake as he heads his way now down towards turn 16, and then we can get our screen back to normal as he heads onto the brakes, into the corner, a nice hop over the curb, and of course you've got to be careful sometimes with that curb at the chicane. It's very easy to lose the rear, hop over too much and lose the car, but Jarno makes it through quite nicely as he heads through the final corner up to the line. It's a 29.930. Of course, these times are not competitive because most drivers are on a used set of the tyres. As we see Josh Edo head up to the line, Declan Barrett heads up to the line in P2, and then we still have a few more cars left to go through. Julian Klaffenbach there, a little bit squirrely through the chicane, but it doesn't matter anyway because there will not be a lap time set for him. Duncan Hoffland jumps up into second place for Aston Martin, and everybody else bails out and goes back into the pit lane. So 5 cars set a lap, 10 others didn't, so that first run basically means nothing.
Yeah, it always feels a bit weird, Q1 and Q2. It just feels like nothing happens for the first 10 odd minutes. So strike them off. We do one-shot qualifying. That sounds like a plan to me. But no, I mean, we've got 10 minutes left to go in this session, so now it really starts to bed in the final preparations of the drivers, and this is where they're going to really start to focus, I think, on their laps as opposed to before. Of course, that's why the drivers have come into the pit lane. They're going to be trying to focus on the next 2 runs, if they are going to do 2 runs. If they do 1 run, that's risking it a little bit. If they do 2 runs, which I'm expecting them to, then they've pretty much got to go out now and just sort of set yourself, try and find the lines, try and warm up a bit, because the used tyre runs aren't representative at all.
No, certainly not. So they might as well start afresh and go once again. Of course, they'll be on a new set tyre of the tyres next time around, and then, of course, that's when we're going to see some more competitive laps. Last night, Thomas Ronhard did a 0.2, a 29.2 to end off the session in Q2. So, of course, we're a lot long away from that at the moment with 0.9s and into the 30s, but I'm sure we'll find lap times similar once the drivers set those laps. Jan Halliday goes out first on a brand new set of soft tyres. Of course, we saw him go out first in Q1 as well. Maybe it's his strategy, his mentality to prefer to be the lone driver out on track and get his lap time done first, and for everybody else to try and beat. We have Tamas Gall as well heading onto track. We have Otis Lawrence in his Alpine livery, Lucas Blakely also out on circuit. So we are now starting to go through into the flurry of the midpoint of Q2, where we actually see some competitiveness start to form. And of course, these first laps in Q2 are so important because obviously only 10 drivers go through here. The gaps tend to be closer than they are in Q1, so you've got even more pressure piled onto you if you're in that bottom 5 or on the cusp heading into those final runs of the session.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be very much high pressure for some of these drivers out on the circuit at the moment. Just try and sort of set a decent lap time, not necessarily the best lap time, but a decent lap time to get yourself on the board, and everybody will be now out on a set of the brand new soft compound tyre. If they're on a worn set, it's pushing it very, very late in the session as to whether you're going to be able to get a proper representative lap in. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be now just a case of trying to get the best lap time on the board. If you think it's good enough, which I think there'll be some drivers who think it's good enough, then you can retire. I mean, I'm talking the likes of maybe a 0.3, a 0.4. They're going to reckon that's enough, definitely. And I think that's going to be them deciding to retire from the session. Everybody else, of course, will be hoping to improve on that and prove them wrong. That's been a talking point that we've mentioned a couple of times throughout this broadcast. I feel like we're manifesting it. I feel like that's coming soon. I think someone's going to miss the mark here.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little bit of misjudgment from a few drivers. We're going to have a couple of surprises being lost here in Q2. But as it was nicely requested in the chat, we'll go on board here with Jan Halliday, heading through into that first sector on his first flying lap of the session in Q2. We'll see what he can do as he heads out of turn 3 and 4, down towards the braking zone at turn number 5, of course. DRS is opened along this back, straight onto the brakes, heavy. Get the car turned in, don't lock up, otherwise you're going to be welcomed by a barrier. Then you head through towards turn 6 and 7 and into this horrible, infamous chicane. Very easy to lose a rear, very easy to invalidate on the entry of both curves, and then of course you've got to shape yourself up ready for turn 9, which Jan does perfectly. Brilliant so far from the young Czech driver as they make their way through the swooping turns 10 and 11, and then of course onto the anchors for turn 12. A very tricky braking point, of course. Here is a corner where you have to try and risk the cut on the inside. If you can make it perfect, you can gain maybe a 10th, but if you don't, you can sometimes get an invalidation or lose a lot of time. But so far from Jan Halliday, this is looking like a pretty decent lap.
Yeah, it is so far from Jan, and I think he's had very, very good qualifying pace over the last couple of rounds, and he's hoping to demonstrate it here again today. He just doesn't seem, in that Q3 session, like he's got that extra burst of pace to take him up to the top, because everyone, of course, unlocks that extra little bit. And, well, hopefully Jan is able to find it this evening, but he's up to the line here in Q2, and he's going to be quickest of all, 29.3, and that's, I think, just about going to be enough for him to see him through to the next session. But I think he's not going to want to risk it. I think he's going to try and come out again.
Certainly, as we do see Otis Lawrence in towards P2. Tamas Gal goes third ahead of Lucas Blakely, who slots into P5. Next across the line is Joris Krozen. He goes up into third. Then we'll have Ishmael Fassi, who has unfortunately found an invalidation, so no improvement for him in this session. What about Istvan Puki? Can he find a lap on the board? He's valid through the first opening sectors, goes 6th fastest. Just over 2 tenths away from Jan Halliday's. Julian Klaffenbach goes up into P2. A very nice lap from him there. Only 1,000th away from Jan Halliday. Of course, Julian being our championship leader. And then Tycho Hardy not finding a lap on the board either. What about Josh Edo? No lap for him. As we do see Declan Barrett, he was up by half a second. It would have been a 0.517. That would have put him 6th, but he did have an invalidation, so no improvement for him. Next across the line, I believe, will be Jarno Opmeer.
Yeah, we'll see what Jarno's going to be able to do when he comes up to the line, and it's not going to be an improvement at all. In fact, he's going to invalidate and decide to come in, and that's going to be the case for a number of the drivers out on circuit at the moment. They're going to be just calling their lap to quit, and I believe, well, I believe actually now that it's absolutely every single driver who has called their lap to a close. And so it's not really going to be representative for a number of these drivers in this in the second part of the session. So all boils down to now, I think, for everybody from Lucas Blakely down to the final lap. Everyone else, I think, can sort of claim their save, Jan and Julian especially. But I think we should see Joris and Tamas out again, as well as everybody else, because it's going to get very, very tight at the end of this session to get that one lap in. And that's what happens when you've got cars so low that struggle with the curbs. You can make a very small mistake, and that's just going to cost you.
Yeah, it certainly will. And this track is definitely one that doesn't... yes, it's not easy to not make a mistake. You make a mistake here, that's your lap over. Around some tracks, you can just about get away with it, but around here, one mistake leads to a barrier, and that is not what you want at all. A very unforgiving circuit is the Las Vegas... Is it the Las Vegas Street Circuit, or is it the Las Vegas Strip Circuit? I've never actually known the full name for the track.
I'm
pretty
Las
sure. Vegas?
I'm pretty sure they just call it Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure it's quite literally just Las Vegas along the Las Vegas Strip. Nope, I've just looked it up. It is apparently the Las Vegas Strip Circuit. But they don't. Yeah, I don't think they've ever used that name ever.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I mean, it does run along the Las Vegas Strip, and I remember actually we have a little bit of time to talk. When this first idea came around and they announced it live, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it just says F1 Las Vegas. I'm like, what the hell am I watching at 2 a.m? Click onto it, and there's a circuit at the Strip which I couldn't quite believe. I'm thinking, how the hell have they managed to sort of pass this and make it work? It's a bit of a joke of a track, as George Morgan likes to say. It's an upside-down pig. But the fact that we're able to race here is insane. And if you're anybody in F1, no one could tell me they wouldn't want to drive 200 miles an hour down the Las Vegas Strip, past all the hotels. It'd be amazing. The track's boring, but, I mean, it'd be fun for the drivers, I suppose.
It would. This just brings me to the point of, I think we need more like spectacles in F1 tracks. Make them ride up and down the Burj Khalifa. I think we get them riding up and down the Burj Khalifa.
We are going to have that insane track in Saudi, aren't we? That Qiddiya track, which is going to be like up massive hills and stuff. It's like 200 meters
Yeah,
off the ground.
they need to fix some of the health and safety stuff. Though there is one that's just like suspended in the air and there's no barriers. So
Oh.
I'm not really sure what the plan was with that corner. But
No.
they've got a few things to work out with Kidia before they actually bring it in. But I mean, I wouldn't mind a half Saudi calendar, half USA calendar. That appears to be the way they're going. I would mind it, but that appears to be the way they want to go anyway.
Yes, give it time. We'll have about 5 US Grand Prix and 5 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Give them time. It makes them money. We'll leave them to it. We can somewhat try and enjoy the racing around some of those circuits. But less of our waffling about imaginary street circuits. Back to the actual action on track. And the first car out is the Flying Dutchman. None other than Jarno Opmeer. Behind him is one of the white cars. That will be not his Van Pookie. It will be Lucas Blakely, who does go ahead of Jarno Opmeer. So we have 3 championships in one picture there from F1 Sim Racing. Of course, Jarno Opmeer's won 3, hasn't he? So we have 4. 3 for Jarno Opmeer, 1 for Lucas Blakely. I think Jarno's won 3, hasn't he? I should know this, shouldn't I?
I believe so. Wow,
I really should know this, but I don't. That's really embarrassing.
Well.
No, Jarno is 3, I think.
Yeah, I'm just fact checking you, but I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty sure it is 3 for Jarno and 1 for Lucas Blakely.
Listen, there's too many championships to keep up with. You've got PSGL, WOR, you've got eSports. There's too many things to keep up with.
Jarno is king of all.
I mean, he has
according
won
to some of
8
the comments.
in PSGL. He's won, I think, 4 or 5 here. Yes, it's too confusing for my brain. But we have cars out on track. First one out, Joseph. We'll go on board with Lucas Blakely.
Yeah, Lucas Blakely, of course. As we mentioned, we know how many championships he's won, and it's 1. But, I mean, he's a very, very solid driver. Met him a few weeks ago, actually. I didn't meet him. It was one of those things where you sort of speak to somebody momentarily at a racing circuit. He was racing at Donington Park in real life. That has been his focus, but his real magnum opus is sim racing. That is what he has very much built his career off of, and this is the very pinnacle of sim racing, of course, as he heads out of sector number 2. What's he able to do in the first 2 sectors? It's going to be an improvement of about a tenth and a little bit of a second. And now opening up the DRS, or he will do, down halfway down the straight. They've shortened this DRS straight as opposed to the original plans, because the original plans had it all the way down the Las Vegas Strip, which would have seen the cars going all the way up to about 230 miles an hour. It goes up to about 215, Lucas Blakely does, and throws himself into the final chicane. You have to brake so incredibly hard for that corner, and I can't imagine the G-forces the drivers will be seeing on board. Now around the final corner, Blakely is going to set his final lap in Q2, and it's going to be a 129, 403, and it's going to throw him up to 4th place, immediately displace Jarno Opmeer, goes up inside the top 3, and that's a good start from both of them. Joris Cruzen and Tamas Gal looking like they're not going to improve very much. Angelo D'Ortenzio is not going to set a lap time, so I think he might be the next driver out in Q2. Up to the line, Lotus Lawrence improved. He's up to the fastest. This Van Pookie is going to pick up 6th place, just ahead of Cruzen and Gal. Angelo D'Ortenzio is going to be pushed out by Duncan Hoffland, I think. Indeed, he is. Duncan goes up to the front row as everybody else is going to filter through. That's going to be Gal out, and that's going to be a huge shot. Can Tico knock out Cruzen? No, he can't. Can Barrett and Jabo Konyi do anything? Barrett can't improve, and Jabo Konyi, the last driver up to the line, is out in Q2. It's Gal, it's Tycho, it's Jabo Konyi, D'Ortenzio, and Barrett.
Certainly. Big shame there for Tamas Gal. Normally a driver we expect to see in the top 10, but he left it a little bit too... left the session a bit too early there, unfortunately, and doesn't seem through in towards that final qualifying session. I'm not sure what happened to Angelo D'Ortenzio, because I don't think he got to the line in time. There was a car that was blacked out in the pit lane, but I'm not sure if it was his or somebody else's car. But yes, he won't be making it through, along with Declan Barrett, Ben Chabakonyi, Togo Hardy, and Tamas Gal. The top 10, though, are making their way through will be Otis Lawrence, Duncan Hoffland, Jan Halliday, and Julian Klaffenbach, followed by Jarno Opmeer, Lucas Blakely, Ishmael Fassi, Ist Van Pookie, Josh Yido, and then Joris Krozen. The top 10. 2 tenths separated all of those guys there. A tenth and a half separating second down to 10th. So this fight for pole, Joseph, could be very, very intriguing indeed. And before I throw over to you and ask your predictions, guys in the chat, let us know who you think will take pole position. I have a feeling it'll be many Yana Watmirs, but go for something a bit different, guys. Go for a bit of an audacious prediction. Joseph, who are you going for pole?
Super Jan Halliday, of course. No, I mean, I mean, he's got an opportunity. He needs to find that extra 10% I mentioned in Q3 to take his way up there. But there is no reason why Jan Halliday cannot take pole here. I'm going to go for a bit more of a boring answer. I'm going to go for Julian Klaffenbach. There is actually a reason that Jan might not take pole, and that's that he keeps disconnecting and reconnecting to the session, so he might not get the chance to actually set a lap. I'm going to go for Julian Klaffenbach. I think that he's the most likely to get up to the top. I'm going to also go, which is kind of cheating, for somebody else that I would like to see up on pole position, and it's Duncan Hoffland. He was able to throw himself onto the front row at the last part of qualifying in Q2, which is the first real time we've seen a lap time from him. So I'd like to see Duncan right at the very top, and I think he's got an opportunity. By the way, just to let you know about Angelo, he didn't quite make it to the line. He was 1 second off. He was literally... He could see the line as the checkered flag was waved, so it's very unfortunate. He passed the pit entry. He could have, of course, cut across the track to get into there, but you're not allowed to do that. So he was very, very close, and he had to do another commiseratory lap.
Certainly, and we have one singular car out on track. It's Ismail Fassi. Of course, it's been quite quiet in Q1 and Q2. Haven't seen much of him, but he's made his way through into that top 10, and we'll be looking for the shootout for pole position. I'm sure we'll see a very good lap from him once we get to that final part of Q3. But of course, it's a big, big race for Julian Klaffenbach. In the standings, he leads on 85 points. Actually, we'll have a quick look at the standings. We have a quick moment. He's on 85 points, ahead of Nicholas Longate by 10. Then he's another 7 on top of that, ahead of Ismail Fassi. So he's got a decent, pretty much 20-point gap between himself and Ismail Fassi. Yana Watmir is in 4th, another 3 points back from that. And then there's a giant gap back to Shanika Clay. If Julian could take pole and go for a win or get a podium, this could make that gap possibly even 15 to 20 to 30 points ahead of Nicholas Longate. So this is a very, very big race for Julian Klaffenbach. Of course, with 5 rounds to go after this one, he would really love to take a championship, and I think he thoroughly deserves it, especially after the couple of years he's had kind of up and down in the whole sim racing scene. He went from being a new protege to being banned for allegedly cheating, which I don't believe, then came back and has been brilliant ever since. So it'd be quite a story for Julian, I think.
It certainly would be. He's got one of the most feel-good stories in the F1 racing scene, because a lot of these drivers we've seen around for a long time, every single one of these drivers has been racing at the top level since before I commentated, so it's very much an honour to be taking you through the action with all of them, because I know that, I mean, I'd imagine for you, Nathan, it feels kind of like when I saw Mattia Kolnagi say that his favourite driver growing up was Max Verstappen. Makes you feel kind of old, but yeah, we've got a number of very, very talented drivers, and they've all got such good stories. But I do think Jusho has the best story of all, as Lucas Blakely is going to wipe out the bollard in Sector 2, so nobody's going to be able to use that as a braking reference point. But yeah, we've got 8 minutes and 30 seconds left in this qualifying session. Everybody is about to set their first laps, and they'll only get the opportunity to set 2. So, I mean, for them, it's really now or pretty much never, because they'll throw the pressure on themselves in that final lap if they don't get a good one here.
Certainly, and thinking of Julian, I was thinking back to his old name when he used to be called Yuchi, and I remember back then he was, I think, in F5, Tier 5, and I was actually a manager of his when he was in a team called QRT, and it's quite mad to see where he is now, back from then when I used to basically tell him what to do. Now he's the one who'd be telling me what to do. Definitely, of course, being in a very, very high-profile esports team. It's quite mad to see how drivers transition over the period of a few years and where they end up after time. But, of course, now on board with Lucas Blakely, heading down towards Turn 1, of course, his first lap of the session. We'll have to see what he can do as he taps the barrier through Turn 5. It's a 25.9 in Sector 1 for Lucas Blakely. Not the most competitive first sector, so that could indicate to me that we are on a used set, because I'm sure we saw 25.8 in Q2. So I'd expect something a little bit quicker than that for a competitive lap as he makes his way through turns 10 and 11, and then onto the brakes into turn 12, which I still, when I drive this track, when I rarely play the game, I still can't get turn 12 right, because go from that very high-speed left-hander, and then by the time I'm on the brakes, I'm knocking up and going straight on. I can never kind of get the car straight before I hit the brakes. It's such a difficult corner. So when you see these drivers take that perfectly, it's like, how? Because I literally can't do it.
It's kind of just a bit like dabbing onto the brakes and the throttle again and again. You don't necessarily just full lock on the brakes and then full lock on the throttle again. It's a very weird sort of transition period the drivers have to go through. It's very, very difficult to get right, which is why I engineer them, I don't drive them. But yeah, up to the line. Lucas Blakely first lap, and it is going to be a 29.9, as you say. Not necessarily the most competitive lap time that's going to put him probably at the back of the field at the end of this run, looking at some of the lap times being thrown in. It's only a couple of tenths quicker in the first sector, but that's still a huge lot of time. That's where the difference between the used tyres and the new tyres will be, as Jan Halliday clearly on a new set of tyres, 29.316 is his marker. It's the difference between the new tyres and the worn tyres will be in sector 1. That's where you use the most of the load on the tyres, because of course the rest of the lap is basically straight. So it's very much just wanting to get yourself in a very good position out of the first sector, and then you can throw yourself through the rest of the lap with no real problems. Jan Halliday, Otis Lawrence, and Josh Edo, and this Van Pookie as well, with 29.3s and 29.4s. Jarno Opmeer bridging the gap with the 29.7, so dare I say that's a poor lap, as that's a hugely impressive lap from Julian Klaffenbach, up to the top 29.1, but it looks like those 6th and up are on a new set of tyres. If I was to hazard a guess, Jarno Opmeer is on a new set as well. He just set a poor lap, or a used set, and he's done a very, very good lap. And then Lucas Blakely and Duncan are definitely on a used set of tyres.
Certainly, and I've got to say I'm not surprised from Julian Klaffenbach to have such a brilliant lap at the start of the session. Over in the Blue League, as we'll call it, he took pole with a 0.48 last night, 29.048. The only driver to get into the 29 zeros. Put it into perspective, Thomas Ronhaar was about a 10th back. And Thomas Ronhaar was on it all session in Q1 and Q2. And when Thomas is on for a good Q1 and Q2, you know it's difficult to beat him in Q3. And Julian did it by nearly a 10th. So, yes, I could definitely imagine a Julian pole once again here this evening. He's over a 10th clear of Ishmael Fassi, nearly 2 tenths clear ahead of Jan Halliday. So a brilliant job by Julian so far. But of course, 1 lap to go. Many drivers haven't set a lap on a new set. You've got Joris who hasn't set a lap at all. So definitely pressure on for Julian, but not as much as he would have been if he was around where Josh Edo is, for example.
No, there definitely isn't. I mean, there's pressure on every single one of these drivers towards the end of this session. But I think that lap from Klaffenbach might be enough to even take pole position now, before they've even set the final runs. Everybody is going to try and pick up laps at the end that are going to be that much, but I don't think... I mean, Ishmael Fassi's going to have to find a 10th from somewhere. Jan's going to have to find a 10th and a half from somewhere. Same for Otis Lawrence. Josh Edo's going to have to find 2 tenths. Same goes for the rest of the grid. They're going to have to find so much unbelievable time that I don't think anyone's going to be able to do it. And Joris cruising, well, he needs to find a time at all.
Yes, indeed. Joris needs to get something on the board, and he did make a mistake in Q2, and then he came back and flew. There we go. I get the words out. Straight to the top of the standings at the end of that one. So I'm sure he can get a decent lap and jump himself up in and around P5, P6. But of course, Ishmael Fassi as well needs a good result for his championship charge. He's 8 points back, I believe, from Nicholas Longue. So for him, getting at least P6, P5 is the aim to jump up into second in the standings potentially. But of course, he'd love to close that gap to Julian Klaffenbach. So his aim will just be beating Julian, whether it's been in first and Julian in second, or maybe it's a little bit further down. All he needs to do is beat Julian to keep that championship gap close. Otherwise, it extends by another couple of points again, and that really makes it difficult. 4 rounds to go after this one, but we have got cars starting to go out onto track. The first one out will be an Aston Martin, and once again, it's Jan Halliday, and I'm starting to think now, Joseph, maybe he's doing this for a little bit of airtime, because every time we see a car going out, it's Jan Halliday.
Jan doesn't need airtime. He gets the airtime simply from aura alone. The chat exploded every time he was on the screen last time, especially when he looked like he was in the challenge for pole. And he's definitely in the challenge for pole again, is Jan Halliday. It would be very impressive if he does take it, but he's definitely in with an opportunity to to be right up there at the very top. Everybody's out apart from Ishmael Fassi, and you can see the cluster of cars. If you go on board with the likes of Josh Edo maybe through this segment, you can see surely how tight everybody is getting, as they might not scrap it around here. It's a little bit more of an open circuit than the Mexico final sector, but it will certainly feel like it to the drivers, like they are all very, very, very close together, and all scrapping over the same bit of track. And if somebody makes a mistake ahead of you, that could really, really cost you. Take, for example, Jarno Opmeer. He's right in behind Lucas Blakely. If Blakely makes a mistake, that's going to cost Jarno Opmeer. And, well, actually, now, Lucas Blakely's gone ahead of, I believe, that to be Julian Klaffenbach. So if Blakely makes a mistake, it has a knock-on effect on Klaffenbach, which has an effect on Jarno Opmeer, which has an effect on Joris Cruzen. So it's very risky to all be in this segment, but the rewards are huge.
Certainly are. And of course, now we head to the end of Q3. The conclusion phase begins. The first car to look to set a lap will be Jan Halliday. Of course, he's miles up the road compared to everybody else. Let's have a look at Josh once again. There's absolutely everywhere here, heading down towards turn 16. So, of course, Jan's got a bit of clean air. He can enjoy his qualifying lap without anybody interfering with him. So we head back down towards turn 1 for the final time with Halliday, around 1.5 tenths back from that current pole position time of 29.161. That comes to Julian Klaffenbach. He makes his way through the first opening corners ever so close to the barrier at turn 3. And then, of course, DRS open, battery being used down towards turn number 5. We'll see what his first sector is shortly as he heads onto the brakes just after that 100-metre board. Get the car turned in nicely, then make your way around in towards 6 and 7. No, I'm not making the cringe meme, it's just unfortunately they follow each other so closely. You make your way through there, then in towards turn 9. Decent opening sector here for Jan Halliday so far. And then, of course, still half a lap to go. We make our way through towards turns 10 and 11. Everybody now has begun their laps. Ishmael Fassi will be the last car to set a time here in Q3 and, of course, look to try and take pole position away. Hop the curb at turn 12. Perfect there from Jan Halliday. He's up by over a tenth and a half. This could be enough to take that pole position away from Julian Klaffenbach, and what an achievement that could be for Jan Halliday. As we have that long back straight, battery being used here to below 20%. He saves a little bit as he heads onto the brake shortly towards turn 16. Decent so far here from Jan. Hops the curb, once hops the second curb, and then through the final corner it is for Jan. Let's see what he can do. Can he take pole position away from Julian Klaffenbach? Sits third at the moment, would love to jump up into first. Through the final corner, up to the line, and he doesn't. He stays in, well, he stays into the top 10. He goes second with a 191. Next across the line will be Lucas Blakely, up by over half a second here. But of course, needs to find time in the final sector. Through the final corner, what will it be for Lucas Blakely? He goes third, a brilliant lap from him. Next across the line will be Julian Klaffenbach. He can't improve on that 161. Neither can Jarno Opmeer. He stays down in P8 as Joris Cruzen jumps onto the front row. Josh Edo to the line. He stays P7. Otis Lawrence, he goes onto the front row with a 185. It's Istvan Pukki to the top. A 134 for him. And can Ishmael Fassi take it away? I don't think he can. But out of absolutely nowhere, it's Pukki on top.
Istvan Pukki, how on earth has he managed to get that pole position? He didn't quite scrape through Q2, but it wasn't looking comfortable. And now he's on pole position by quite a decent margin by the top standards. He's ahead of Julian Klaffenbach by 0.03 of a second. Otis Lawrence 0.2 back. Joris Cruzen only just behind. Jan Halliday also they're unlucky to be in 4th and 5th. Ishmael Fassi in 6th and 7th. They're going to be within a tenth of Istvan Pukki. Then Hofland, Edo and Jarno Opmeer were not able to set good lap times at the end, and they find themselves 8th, 9th and 10th. But an unbelievable time at the end from Istvan Pukki under so much pressure, and he's going to take that pole position away.
Certainly. And, well, what an ending that was to Q3. And I can't remember. Do you remember? Is it we stay in the lobby and restart, or do we make a new one? I completely forgot. I should remember.
I believe it's
Never
a new
mind,
one.
we're leaving it. We're migrating host. So what we'll do is actually we'll have a quick word from our sponsors over at Gridfinder, and Next Level Racing will be back very, very shortly. Right, and welcome back, everybody. You can see our beautiful faces on the screen. Of course, my very bold face. Of course, if people don't know, I didn't do this by choice. It was for charity. So, no, I didn't decide that bald would be my hairstyle. It just unfortunately had to happen. Joseph has a lot better hairline and a lot better hair than me at the moment. So,
Not
I
hairline.
need to try. Let's see the hairline then, Joseph. Go on.
Oh God. Okay. Right. This is gonna ruin me. Right.
I mean, it could be worse, but I mean, it's
It
probably
could
on
be.
par with
It's not
mine. I
great.
think maybe mine's just a bit like
It's
a
not great.
V. Yours is
The
like a
the problem is
U.
when it gets wet, it all just clusters like that, and it looks really bad.
Oh,
So now I have to sort it out because it's slightly wet. Um, but yeah, that's my biggest problem with it. Anyway, this is WOR Tier 1. We're talking about hairlines. Could
indeed.
be
I mean, we've
worse.
got nothing better to talk about until we can get into the session. I've loaded in. Of course, we get to go back to normal cars, but yes, we still need to wait for everybody to get in, and then, of course, whoever the owner is of this session, which I believe is Ben Shabakoni, a big thanks to him for hosting, he needs to then sort the grid out. And Jordan says that's actually crazy. Are you even allowed to ask me that? Yes, I am, and I did. I forgot I was on this account. I was meant to ask it in my normal account, but I typed it and thought, oh no, I'm on the wrong account. Damn it. So yes, you did get asked by WR, not by me. But, of course, standings-wise, we'll have a quick look at those once again. Of course, Joseph, Julian tops the standings by 10 points to Nicholas Longe, 18 points to Ishmael Fassi. He's ahead of Ishmael in qualifying. Surely this is another opportunity for that gap to go above 20 points.
Well, that's the plan at least from Julian Klaffenbach, and he set himself up in a good position to do so. But there are other drivers who can really snatch that off of you this evening and off of him this evening as well. There's plenty of opportunities. This is probably the best grid I've seen over the last few weeks. So very excited to get going.
Indeed. And, of course, a quick reminder of the last time action in Mexico, where we did see Otis Lawrence take the win. Only third here in qualifying, and that is for Otis. Only third. Normally he's right up onto pole position or in second place. Of course, he took the win ahead of Julian Klaffenbach and then Angelo D'Ortenzio in third, who, if he made it to the line in time, I think could have qualified top 5 on this grid because he was absolutely immense last night over in PSGL. And then, of course, it was Shanika Clay rounding off the top 4 and Joris Krozen in P5, just over 5 seconds back from Otis. And then we had in 6th place, Jarno Ottmeer ahead of Tycho Hardy, another Dutchman. In 7th, ahead of Lucas Blakely, Jan Halliday, and then Duncan Hofland rounding off the top 10 over 10 seconds back from the lead. So it seems that the gaps are quite heavy around Mexico. I mean, that's more similar to the real-life gaps compared to what we see here in league racing. But, yes, we've got everybody in bar 3. And I still don't understand, Joseph, and I'll never understand why it takes people so long to join a session. It takes us 2 seconds. For some reason, it takes these drivers years. It's like they've got to go and walk over a mountain, go under some rocks, swim in the sea to manage to get themselves into the session. It seems to be such a hard task for many. Oh, actually, no, I forgot. I need to invite Jarno. That's why you can't get in.
Well, we can blame it on you. There's only 2 drivers left. Is it 2 drivers left now? Is that only 1 now?
I think he's in.
I
Is
think
he
it
in?
might just.
No, he's not.
Can't see him. No, he's not. I'm trying to think who else is missing. Right, there's Jarno, and then there's a. Well, that answers my question.
It's a McLaren,
Does
so
it?
it'd be Jack West.
It's a McLaren. Yeah. Is it?
Dear me,
Yeah, it
Jack.
is Jack West. Well, we get the chance to see them in their actual cars now. Of
Yes.
course, qualifying isn't necessarily when you'd want to see them because they aren't in their real cars. But you do get to see some creative freedom. You get some very interesting looking cars. Yoni Tormala's not here this week. That's mine and Dan's favourite topic at the start of Q1. But there's plenty of interesting looking cars, and my favourite ones are the Alpines. I like Ben Chazabo and I like Otis Lawrence because they're the most realistic. They're the ones who try and match it the most, and it's almost like they're paid by Alpine to represent them.
Certainly. Yes, I think they are. I mean, they're paid monthly, I presume, by Alpine. I think most drivers are paid monthly in esports. I'd assume it's not going to be that. If they're being paid a decent wage, I'm sure it's not that hard for them to put on a livery that looks similar to their actual car. Indeed, but we have all 10 teams. We'll have a quick look through who's in what team because we have got a few reserves. So McLaren, it's Philip and Jack. Ferrari, we have Angelo and Ishmael. Red Bull, it's Shanika Clay and Jarno. Opmeer, Mercedes, it's Ben Shabakonyi, and our pole sitter is Van Pookie. RB, we have Tamas Gell and Lucas Blakely, who actually is running as Lucas Blakely this evening. Then we have Tycho Hardy and Joris Krozen in the Haas car, Josh Edo and Otis Lawrence in the Alpines. Aston Martin, it's going to be Duncan Hoffland and Jan Halliday. Williams, it's Declan Barrett and Daniele Parodi, 2 reserves in the Williams tonight. And then, finally, it's Julian Klaffenbach and Thomas Ronhart in the Kick Sabres, of course. The front 2 on the grid, it's Istvan ahead of Julian. That's going to be an insane fight down towards turn 1, especially with Otis, Ishmael and all those further back. And believe, once again, Joris Krozen's game has crashed, like it does every session. Every time I commentate over Joris, his game crashes. Every time.
And this gives us the opportunity, and I've had this with Dan over the last couple of weeks. We can have a little bit of a lesson of how to speak Joris Krozen's name in Dutch, because it's not Krozen. It's, well, the way you'd say it if you were Dutch is Krozen. But
Indeed,
you can.
do you know why I don't say it like that? Because even
Why?
though that's how it sounds, we can never say it right anyway. So I stick to what he doesn't mind.
Does he not mind it? Well, you could try Cruisin', I guess. It's like prune. I don't know.
And I've been told by
got
Jack
told. I
West
got.
I need to race.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan. Yeah. George Morgan's about to race, apparently. He's not even here.
No, George Morgan's currently over on the Alpines Twitch, so it'll be quite quick of a transition to get him over here and racing.
Yeah, I mean, we can fly him out to Las Vegas. WOR's got the budget for that, right?
I mean, I wish they do. I'm not getting paid yet, so I don't think they do. Oh, Norris is back. Finally, we can stop waffling on. We'll go quickly back to the calendar while we have time. Of course, tonight we're here at Vegas. Next week, we head off to Abu Dhabi for round 10. Normally, you don't see Abu Dhabi at like the penultimate round. You normally see it at the back of the grid, but never mind. It's on November 6th. Then we have Great Britain on the 13th of November, followed by Belgium, and then Bahrain ending off the season. Whether it'll be Bahrain, I'm not 100% sure, because I'm not too sure if they fixed the issue with the bump at turn 4. If it is fixed, we'll probably be there. If not, it'll be another track. Maybe it's going to be a replay of a track we've already had. I'm not too sure, but of course, if anything changes, we will keep you updated here at WOR. Of course, you can follow us over on social media, or over at WOR League on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. We have our own TikTok, World Online Racing, which I don't think is uploaded onto much, but of course, go and give us a follow. And then, of course, here on YouTube, make sure to give us a subscribe. And, of course, like this live stream. I'm not sure what liking does on a live stream. I'm not sure if it does anything, but you might as well like it while you are there. And, of course, Joseph, we've got everybody in. Thomas Ronhart's very, very frequently clicking the ready up button. He wants to get us underway. I'm sure everybody does. And then, of course, we can head our way into the race. And before we go in, any predictions, Joseph?
I mean, we saw in qualifying, I think, a little bit of a taster of the pace of some of these drivers. I've still got hope for Duncan Hoffland. I think he's really got that pace. Of course, he didn't quite have it in Q3, but I really do think that he's got that pace. Istvan Pukki, of course, came from absolutely nowhere. I don't know if he's going to have that race pace, to be honest, but generally, he always has that race pace over the quali pace, so it's a surprise to see him up at the top. And, of course, Klaffenbach, Otis Lawrence, trying to reignite that fight like they had with those two and Angelo last week. So it's all set for a very, very good spectacle.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, of course, strategy is key around here. Overtaking isn't easy when you're in a train, so sometimes you see drivers pulling out of the train early, heading into the pits, and go for something different. Others decide to go a little bit longer on their strategy and take the hard/the mediums a little bit later in the race. It's all a mystery until we get those strategies starting to form on circuit. We have got our cars. Well, we haven't got the cars on track. We've got the pit lane that we can see, but we'll move over to the game screen and see what is going to be happening here. Of course, tyres. I'm going to cheat and look at the race director. At the moment, it all says mediums, but I don't think it'll stay like that at all. I think Joseph will see a little bit of a mixture of tyres. But, Joseph, I'll give you the limelight. I'll let you have the start of the Grand Prix, of course. Be prepared, as Vegas is going to be very, very chaotic. And turn 1, I'm sure somebody's going to come out there with a bit of damage.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all because turn one is just it's a medium speed corner, kind of. You can't really tell, and you've just got to very much avoid trying to attack it too much, especially on the first lap of the Grand Prix. As you say, unlikely that the drivers will remain on the medium compounder site until the very end. At least all of them will remain all on that until the very end. I'm sure some of them will continue with it, but yeah, I think hards is generally sort of the plan B here. It's generally the soft, no, not the softs, the mediums that you're going to want to go on at the start of the season. I'm stuck in 2016 with the softs being the yellow wall tyres, and what a time that was with all of the compounds that we had the opportunity to use. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting strategic battle. If they come in on lap 7 from mediums to hards, they are really very much risking it. Any later, acceptable, and of course the undercut is so very strong on this game, so they're going to get the opportunity to utilise it, I am sure. And well, we're going to have 20 drivers taking to the circuit. As I've said, probably the most exciting grid I've seen over the last couple of weeks, the majority of which have got esports experience. So it's very, very exciting times here at Las Vegas, and we're going to see who's going to roll the dice and end up coming out on top. As well, there's a few more drivers now, and I won't spoil who on the hards. I always feel bad about spoiling the strategies and spoiling the sort of nuances they've got, and well, I think it's fair to say a lot of the drivers at the top will be on the mediums, a lot of the ones at the back will be on the hards, but we'll get to have a look in just a few moments' time. The lights are on, the drivers are ready, and the action is underway here in World Online Racing. Istvan Pukki gets off to an absolutely unbelievable launch. He's going to lead into the first corner. Julian Klaffenbach's going to try and take the inside line. Then it's side by side between Halliday and Cruzen, but his teammate Hofland is going to be off the circuit. That's going to be Hofland and Parodi having an incident early on, and they've both dropped down to the back of the field. Looking further back, it's going to be it's going to be Otis Lawrence trying to remain in the fight. He might have Jan Halliday down his inside. Jan going for that inside has allowed Ismail Fassi to enter his way into the fight for fourth place. They remain side by side. It's difficult to go side by side under the sphere here, but who's going to be able to come out on top? It looks like Fassi, and it looks like Cruzen might try to take the opportunity as well. He pulls alongside the Aston Martin, and on the exit of the corner, he looks to try and get ahead. And this is not going to be a good start for him, because now Lucas Blakely is on his inside line.
Definitely not a good start at all here for Jan Halliday, unless he can try and get back ahead of Joris Cruzen on the exit of turn 13. No, he's not quite close enough. So, brilliant move there from Joris and from Ishmael to take advantage of a poor start from Jan Halliday. As we see Lucas Blakely looking to close in as well from 7th place. He's got Jana Watmir on the rear of him as we head down towards turn 16. Anybody looking to make a move? Yes, Tamas Gal making a move ahead of Josh Edo, goes up into 11th place. Of course, he started on the medium tyres, was a little bit out of sync compared to those on the hards, hence why he went and got those moves done early on in the race. We do see Philippe Preshnoda making a move ahead of Ben Shabakonyi. He moves up into 16th, not being the best race so far for McLaren, as we do see Thomas Ronhar now jump up into P17 after starting right at the rear of the field. But once again, I'm noticing here, Joris is on a charge. He's already on the back of Ismail Fassi. He's unfortunately, lap 1, turn 1, we lose Duncan Hofland.
We certainly do. Duncan Hofland out of the race already. He decided he wasn't going to be able to make his way back in. I'd imagine he had damage because he really, really threw himself into the wall as there's a fight for 10th place. Tamas Gal and Tycho Hardy, or Tycho even Hardy, going side by side. And it looks like that's going to be the move signed, sealed and delivered for Tamas Gal, which is a very, very good move to make at this point. It's very difficult in that first sector to overtake, so I'm surprised. I've seen a lot of drivers shaping up for moves there, but it's unsurprising actually with the DRS that they're going to be setting them up. But actually making the moves is a whole other story. You've got a group of drivers actually trying to remain with each other, with Cruzen, Halliday and Lucas Blakely. They're very, very close with 5th, 6th and 7th, and they look like they may well be switching. We're going to get DRS down to the back straight for the first time in this race, and are we going to be seeing any challenges up and down the field? It doesn't look like we are at the very top of the field. Looking further back, is there anybody? Is that Angelo Tortenzio shaping to the inside of Jana Watmig? Not quite yet. So it just looks like everybody's taking the opportunity to start to build a train.
Indeed, looking at the position changes as well. Angelo, what a start. Same goes for Jack West and for Thomas Runham. Of course, Angelo and Thomas up by 5. Jack West up by 6 places, up to 13th from 19th place. A brilliant start from him. Very good indeed, and hopefully we'll be looking to try and score some points here in this race. Of course, back up at the front, it's still Pookie that leads ahead of Klappenbach with Lawrence in 3rd. Did a good job so far for Alpine. Then further back as well, you can see Lucas Blakely looking to go for an opportunity, but just can never quite pull alongside Jan. That's the issue. If he can get alongside, he'll get the move done, but he can never. He needs half a tenth and he's got it, but he can't find that extra half a tenth.
We are restarting the lobby. I just don't know if the drivers know that. There we go. They now know.
I thought we had a bit of lag. Is it to do with the lag?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I thought, because everyone was all over the road.
bad.
Jan Halliday was flying about for me, but I thought, we'll not mention it because I don't want the drivers to think, oh, Jan's lagging, let's all jump on the phone to get a restart.
No, so what happened with Duncan is basically he was turning in for turn 1 and suddenly everyone just started driving into him like he wasn't there. He managed to mount somebody else.
Wow.
And that's why Duncan got thrown into the wall. I noticed it particularly when I was on board with the Cruz and Halliday Blakely sort of group, because they were just jumping all about the place. And I actually considered leaving and joining again to see if it was good for me. It wasn't good for me, and well, F1 25 continues to have its bugs.
Dear me. I mean, I've taken us back to the comm screen, but I'm watching all the cars down at turn 16, taking a very, very different line, braking at the barrier rather than braking at the 150-metre board. But yes, everybody is retired. I've noticed Lucas left, but I don't think anybody else did. So I think we're staying in the session and then go from there. But I'm not loading very quickly. That's quite worrying. Dear me. Dear me.
Love this
we've
game.
been told to restart games. So I don't think that goes towards us though, because we're the spectators. I'd rather not as well. I don't want the stream to crash. So.
Yeah, it's not been it's not been a very easy ride this evening in PC Tier 1, which is unfortunate. But it means that when we do get the race underway, hopefully, fingers crossed, when everyone's had their restarts, it's going to be absolutely fine and pin perfect. And it means that the drivers can't settle into a train. They're going to get to go again, and we get to go second time lucky. They went too boring, so hopefully now we're going to get the chance to make it just a bit more interesting.
Certainly, and of course, guys, don't go anywhere yet. We're not over at all here for WORT 1 round 9. We've not even started the race. Of course, we've got to have a quick lobby restart due to some desync, hence why we lost both Duncan Hoffland and pretty much lost Daniele Parodi at turn 1. So, of course, we'll have a restart, get everybody back into their grid positions, and then we'll go once again to start off the Las Vegas Grand Prix, of course, at the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, which nobody calls it, but Joseph checked up, and that is true. The Las Vegas Strip Circuit. And I've got to say, I do like how they've actually got a very, very realistic strip. I think everything they've got is 1-to-1, I think. Or it looks it at least.
I mean, they've put a lot of their money and investment into the American tracks. Who's surprised? But Brendan's in the chat, Mr. Brendan Lee, of course, former champion here. He says we should script it for full rain. We've actually scripted the lobby restart. It's going to be full rain afterwards. Just hang in there, hold tight.
I've done the R lobby again. Dear me. Yes. Only with slicks, says Neon Wave. So full rain, slick tyres. Don't know how many will make it to turn 1. Never mind a full 25 lap race. But of course, great to see Brendan Lee in the chat. Great to see him. I did see his name pop up earlier, but I could never get a time to actually mention him here. But yes, of course, welcome in, Brendan. Great to have you with us as always. Of course, one of our previous champions, as Joseph said here in WORT 1. I believe it was the last championship he won actually. WORT 1 season 18. I think, if I'm correct. If not, it was the one before. It was one of the two. Too many numbers. I can't work everything out.
Trying to remember. I don't even know if I was here when Brendan won it.
Well, it was only last game.
I think. Yeah, I was only here last. I guess I would have been here because I got here at the start of the last game.
Oh.
So
actually, sorry to cut you off. I saw Jordan say Lee won against Plumbers. Didn't Jan Ottman finish second in the championship?
Is it not basically the same people?
What are you saying about your beloved Jan Ottman, Jordan? Because I know you love him very much. How dare you say that against him?
I'm not going to comment. I'm going to stay out of this one.
Exactly, and no, it's not against plumbers. Brendan Lee also is like the first champion ever in F1 sim racing / esports. I mean, it's lucky. It's not like he was lucky.
Yeah. Well, no, of course not. And he's won it a number of times, so he's been able to back it up. So what can I say? What can I say? Never enough superlatives for Mr. Brendan Lee. I've met him actually, very briefly.
Who,
Um,
Brendan?
I'm talking about him. He's here. So hi Brendan. I've met you. Don't know if you remember this, but yeah, we've met. So that's exciting. But yeah, I have no other comment about that.
No, we nearly have everybody. And we have 19 out of 20. We need to get. Oh, I need to invite Yano again. I think I've only just got in there. This time it's not my fault. Let's find him. Where is he? He's at the bottom of the list for some reason. There he is. We'll get him in. And I've been told that I look like Kearney from The Simpsons. I don't know who Kearney is by name. I'm sure I'll probably know who that is. But of course, want to stress again, I didn't choose to have this haircut. It was for charity. So, yes,
That's
I
good.
didn't
I like
choose
that
to.
one. I think I don't think it looks anything like you. I think it's just a bald guy. But
See, do you know what the thing is, though? It makes it very easy. So if someone tries to take the mick out of my hair, I'll go, I did it for charity, and then I'll make them feel bad.
yeah,
It's worked a couple of times already, actually. Oh, dear
yeah.
me. Right, we've got everybody in. We need Josh Ido to pick his car. Then we can get Ben Shabakonyi on the job of sorting the grid out. And then we can go underway again for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And I wonder if we'll have many changes at the top with strategy. Of course, everybody in the top 10 was on mediums. I wonder if anybody's going to see that and think, you know what, let's try something different.
I think so. I think they're going to consider it, but I don't think in the end they're going to actually decide upon that because they it just looked very traditional. They were in position. Those at the top were on mediums. Those at the bottom were on hards. I think that's the best strategy for both of those positions. And we didn't get the chance to see actually who ended up stacking up in what positions. But I mean, it's just we will of course wait and see. But I do think that that's kind of um, that's kind of the way that it's going to go. It looked very traditional. It didn't look like anybody was going outside of the box really. So I think expect them to do something similar.
Yeah, I think it probably will be, but you never know. Someone might try something different. We'll have to wait and see. We've got everybody in. Josh has picked his car. Thank you, Josh. Finally, we can now get the grid sorted and go into the race. Of course, guys, we didn't ask for predictions before, so we'll ask for them now. Give us your predictions for the race if you remembered who started where. Of course, it's Pookie on pole ahead of Klaffenbach in second, Lawrence third, fourth I have forgot. But yes, out of the top three, tell us who you think will get the podium.
Well, I mean, I can run you through the top 10 because I have the stream open and I actually sorry, I remember it. I'm definitely not cheating. Joris Cruisen in fourth place.
Yes.
Jan Halliday, Ishmael Fassi, Lucas Blakely, Duncan Hoffland making up the fourth row of the grid, and then Josh Ido and Jarno Otmir making up the fifth row as Jarno was not able to set a lap in the last qualifying the last segment of
Apparently I'm
qualifying that
quiet
was good
again.
enough. What?
Apparently I'm quiet again.
I think it might just be your PC at this
Or it might
point.
be everyone else's devices not being good. So maybe turn everything up, guys, because it shouldn't be quiet at all. It is literally on the max setting, which it's always on for the past 3 years. So I don't know. Brendan says it's fine. There we go. Thanks, Brendan. Thank you.
There you go. You're trusting Brendan, are you, over everyone else? Anyway, we'll get the chance to go again. I don't blame you. We'll get the chance to go again, and we will be seeing the drivers once again out on the circuit at Vegas, and hopefully we're going to get through all of the laps this time.
Yes, I'm hoping we will do. And once again, you got the pleasure of going twice for the restart for the start here of Las Vegas. So I'm sure we'll get some similar action down to turn one once again. Of course, we saw lots of battling on that first opening lap, especially down towards turn 5. We saw a couple of cars even go side by side into the chicane. So I'm sure we will see all of that once again here around Las Vegas. And of course, Istvan got a perfect start, took the lead ahead of Julian. Julian this time will be looking to try and get a better start so he can take that lead of the race.
Yeah, that's what he's going to be hoping for at the very least, I think. And he gets another opportunity to see what he can do. Of course, the drivers on the mediums at the front will have a great opportunity to get off to a good launch, because the mediums get off to a much better launch than the hards. And the softs, of course, get off to the better launch, but they basically only survive to turn 1, and after that, they don't survive anymore. Either way, we'll find out what we do in just a couple of moments' time as the lights are off and the action is underway. Istvan Pukki and Julian Klaffenbach are going to pull to the inside line of the first corner, and it looks like Julian is going to be able to have to be boxed in fact. And Otis Lawrence is going to look around the outside, sweeping to the inside line of turn number 2. And that's going to be the Alpine this time, up in second place. Klaffenbach pulls alongside, and he's going to take the inside line into turn number 3. Otis squeezes him as much as he can. Julian tries to swap over, and this is going to open the door to Jan Halliday to try and pull it through. He's on the outside line, and they are still 2x2 pretty much all the way through the field as Jan is on that inside line. Can he get through? Not quite. Julian holds a tyre in. He doesn't want to lose too many places, but it looks like he's going to have to eventually succumb to position. Indeed, he does, and it's a great start for Pukki. It's a great start for Lawrence as opposed to the last one, and Jan Halliday is in third place as Cruzen and Fassi are side by side.
Of course, and by lap 5 on race 1, Jan was down to 7th. By lap 1 on race 2, he's up to 3rd. Brilliant so far here by Jan Halliday, who's actually on the back now with Otis Lawrence looking to possibly make a move and jump up into second place as we make our way down the long back straight, down the long Las Vegas strip past all the hotels, the casinos and the bars, then onto the brakes, and we'll see if anybody looks to fancy a move. I don't think anyone is though, unless Jarno Opmeer fancies a move. To the inside goes Opmeer on the back and looking to go ahead of Josh Ito. They go side by side through the final chicane, then through the final corner. We see them for a moment, we reappear once again, and Jarno couldn't get that move complete, and now Tamas Gal fancies a move ahead of the Red Bull as we head through the final corner back down towards turn 1, and let's see if anybody fancies a move further ahead.
It looks like Jarno Opmeer is going to go for it on Josh Ito once again. He pulls alongside on the exit of turn number 1 and tries to sweep around the outside into 2. Ito squeezed him so far to the wall that that's actually ruined Jarno Opmeer's momentum, and he's going to have to try and go for it once again. Ito, by the way, is on a set of the hard compound tyres. Everybody else is on a set of the mediums in terms of the top 11 drivers, and so it feels as though for Opmeer, for Gal, for D'Ortenzio, they need to get through on the Alpine soon.
They certainly do, and a brilliant start once again from Angelo D'Ortenzio on the back, looking to go ahead of Tamas Gal as they head through the chicane, but no move can be made, and he stays in P11 unless he goes for a late dive into turn 9. Can he get the move complete? He's alongside as they head down towards 11 and 12. He's going to have to swoop it around the outside, then go back to the inside, and I don't think he could quite make that move. So 11th still here for Angelo as they head into turn 12, but it was definitely a nice little bit of confidence there for Angelo to go for the move. But Julian, further ahead, he's looking to go for 3rd place. He's on the back of Jan Halliday. Less than a 10th is the gap between the two. We'll go on board here with the kick saber as we head into 16. He's got to go to the inside line, look to get that move complete. Unless Jan can defend it, it's going to be close. On the brakes goes Julian, looking to go later on the brakes than Jan. They head side by side through like what we just saw between Jarno and Josh, but Julian's got the inside line as we head back down towards turn 1. Let's see, can Julian get that move complete?
Yeah, we'll see, as they're going to remain side by side, and in fact, Julian, in the end, just has the guts to stay within it, and Jan decides to back out. They don't want to lose too much time, as there is a little bit of scrapping further on, as 6th place is being fought over right now. Ishmael Fassi squeezed Lucas Blakely so far to the inside in the first corner, and Lucas is going to be hoping for a comeback in that fight to have the ability to continue to fight in that one, as Duncan Hoffland is going to go around the outside of Angelo D'Ortenzio. That's going to be an end plate off for one of the drivers, as they've just come to blows here in Las Vegas, and that is not good at all for any of them, really. And they remain side by side. It's not D'Ortenzio or Hoffland who have the damage, so they're going to have all of the turning that they want, and it is going to be Tamas Gal behind, who just missed his braking point, as D'Ortenzio and Hoffland remain side by side. And I think the inside line for D'Ortenzio is going to seal the move.
Certainly, and Lucas Blakely looking to make a move ahead of Ishmael Fassi. I think he might have tapped the back there of the Ferraris. They headed through turn 12. Let's see if there's any damage on his car. There's not, so it must have not been contact, or if it was very, very minimal. And now Lucas Blakely's on the outside line, down towards turn 16, looking to make the move and looking to go up into the top 6 here in this race. As we do see further ahead, Joris Krozen going for the send on to Jan Halliday. That's going to be for 4th place. We'll go back to those two further ahead, and it is the move complete for Joris Krozen. Moves up into 4th ahead of Jan Halliday. Down to 5th now for him. Started 5th and remains 5th here, as we do see Josh Ido all over the back of Ismail Fassi. I've got to say, even though he's on the hard tyre, which tends to be the worst tyre, he's absolutely flying here in this race. So maybe this strategy could work out heavily for Josh Ido to get him a top 10 spot. As we look further behind, Thomas Ronhaar started last, now up to 14th on the hard tyre, looking to try and get ahead now of Shanika Clay, who sits in 13th, looking to score points once again. Took 4 last time out in Mexico. He's quite far away from that at the moment in 13th. This is now all over the rear of the damaged Tamas Gal.
Yeah, and he's going to want to get through as soon as he can, because of course Tamas is going to lose him time with that damage. There's so little margin between all of these drivers that if you lose any time, it's going to be a huge deficit to your race. They are settling down now, and it is a very good job from Josh Ido that he's been able to hold on to 8th place on those hard compound tyres, knowing that it's about now when those hards become the tyre that you want to be on. It's very early on in that part, so I don't think it's quite yet. I think it's more towards a bit more even between the hards and the medium compounder tyres at the moment. But still a little bit in the medium tyre favour for maybe another lap or so. Then the momentum switches and the tyres swap over. We are going to be getting a move down the back straight from somebody, I believe, on this lap. There's a couple of shaped moves from the pack further up. Jan looking to get past Joris Krozen, but not deciding to go for it in the end. Shanika Clay, once again, he tried to get through on Tamas Gal into the braking zone, but cannot quite do so either. And so it's not really what these drivers would want at this point, as well, what has gone well for one driver. Thomas Ronhaar started last. Only one driver at Jack West has had problems, and Ronhaar's managed to scythe his way through 6 more drivers. He's up into 13.
Certainly a brilliant start here for Thomas Ronhaar. Of course, not been his best championship here. I think he has missed a couple of races though, so that's why he's not right up at the top, but certainly still got the pace in that kick sabre as we head through towards turn number 5. And just watching here with Jan Halliday, of course the gaps ahead are quite large, but we see that a lot here at the start of a race, especially when they're all just dialing down into their strategies and just trying to make it through that first stint unscathed. But of course it's going to be Istvan Pukki who leads the way ahead of Otis Lawrence, and championship leader Julian Klafferbock in 3rd, Joris Krozen 4th with Jan Halliday reigning off the top 5. It's been a really good start here for Jan. Of course Lucas Blakely as well, getting some, well, hopefully we'll be scoring some decent points. He sits in P6 currently ahead of Ismail Fassi. Josh Ido 8th, Jorno Otmi in 9th, and Angelo D'Ortenzio after starting 14th rounds off the top 10 here. Lap 5 of 25, a 5th of the way through, and I'm sure the action is going to get very heated once we start to see those pit stops. I think the earliest we're going to see them is probably lap 8.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think it is going to be lap 8 at the very earliest. But of course, the undercut is very strong in this game, so that's what they're going to want to do. Declan Barrett on the inside line of bench Zabo Konyi, and manages to get through on the Mercedes into the chicane, and they didn't really fight too hard. Thomas Ronhaar has made his way past Tamas Gal. He's in 12th place. Gal has decided to continue on with that damage, and so they are very much losing time. As Shanika Clay still behind him, wants to desperately get through. Ronhaar currently outside of the DRS of Duncan Hoffman. He's going to need to get back into that, or he can kiss his chances of getting points pretty much goodbye.
Yep, certainly you've got to start making moves as early on as you possibly can, especially around a track like this where the middle point of the race, from now until around lap 18, 19, it's so difficult to make overtakes. It's the start and the end where you can really capitalise off making moves here. So of course, you've got to try and get them done as early as possible here in this stint. We do see Thomas Ronhaar find himself back within a second of Duncan Hoffman, as further back for 19th we have a battle between Philip Preshneda and Daniele Parodi. So they make their way through towards turn 11 and 12, and then further ahead, all over the rear of Otis Lawrence, is Julian Klafferbock, nearly touching the back of the Alpine, heading out to the braking zone. We head back down towards turn 16. The battery's being burnt here by Julian. I don't think Otis is going to fight this at all as we head down to the braking zone. Of course, DRS open here for Julian. And actually, no, Otis burns the battery as well, so no move can be made here for Julian unless he goes for a risky outside move. In towards turn 16 they go, and no move can be found here by Julian. Looks to try and find a better exit, but actually loses time heading out of turn 16 and will still solidify himself in 3rd place unless he can go for a late charge down towards turn 1. The same could go for Otis Lawrence here as we go down to turn 1. Who's looking for a move? Pookie defends to the outside into turn 1. Lawrence was looking for the overtake. Same going there for Julian Klaffenbach as we make our way through turn 3. Even though, Joseph, we had 3 cars going for the move, it stays the same.
Yeah, and I think Istvan Pookie felt forced to defend there, otherwise he was going to let 2 different drivers through, which would not be what he would have wanted to do, of course, at that time. It has invited the cars behind back into the fight. Joris Cruzen is not too far off Julian Klaffenbach now. Jan Halliday and Lucas Blakely, as well as Ismail Fassi. The gaps are now just 2 tenths between them, whereas before it went all the way up to about 7 tenths in between the top 3 and the rest of the field. And Cruzen is going to try and take full opportunity of being back within this slipstream at range, within this area where he can attack Julian Klaffenbach, and he's going to try and fight his way back into podium contention. But if Jan Halliday has anything to say about it, he will want to get through. He's looked racy in these early laps as he wants to get through and as high up the field as he possibly can to demonstrate himself as well as he can. And the driver in 5th place may well turn into the driver into 4th as Joris Cruzen gets a poor exit. And that's the one corner you don't want to poor exit out of, because it's the longest straight on the calendar. It's the quickest straight on the calendar. And if you get a poor exit, that can really cost you time. Jan's not going to get close enough, though. He is going to pull out of the slipstream, but that's to pick up a few extra kilometres per hour because of the engine temperature. So Jan tucks back in behind Joris, and he remains there for another lap. Lap number 7 going in to lap number 8.
Of course, and Jan closing in quickly through turn 19, and also Joris looking to close in on Julian Klaffenbach into turn 1, but nobody makes a move. But we do have a couple of cars making a move in the pit lane. The first to pit, John Ootmeijer, followed by Angelo D'Altenzio, onto a new set of the hard tyres. Now we're looking to go to the end from there, very early in this race, but of course, sometimes that undercut is the best strategy, so go as early as humanly possible in terms of being able to get to the end on those new tyres. So, yes, those 2 will be at the back and they'll easily climb their way up the field. And of course, that should maybe stop some of these cars here battling, because they would rather not lose more time to Jarno and Angelo than they already will. So they might just stick it to where they are now and just look to pull to the pit stops and then, of course, make those battles afterwards. But Jan Halliday all over the back of Joris. Surely one of these guys is going to pull out the slipstream and go for the pit stop.
You think one of them is going to try and take that gamble. Of course, that undercut is going to be so very valuable. As I said, though, I think Jarno and Angelo have come in 1 lap too early. I think they're going to be very much struggling, so they're going to have to manage those tyres basically from now until the end of the race, which is going to put them at a disadvantage when they have to end up fighting somebody towards the end of this Grand Prix, and that's going to be a huge deficit for them to try and contend with, as we'll be seeing more drivers in on this lap. They've seen Jarno and Angelo come in, and they're going to decide that this is their lap to pit as well. How many drivers are we going to be seeing into the pit stop, though? This is where you have to communicate with your teammates so you don't double stack, and we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers in. Istvan, Otis, and it's going to be a number of drivers in there. Jan Halliday becoming the latest one. I think that number is only going to be 3, but we'll see where they all end up coming out, and crucially where Istvan Pookie comes out. Of course, he was the race leader when they dived into the pit lane. Now he's coming out of the pits. He's already done the tyres, so Jan Ootmeijer is going to take the provisional lead of the race, I think, because he's going to try and sweep around the outside line of Pookie. It's going to get very close. They're going to be side by side, in fact, and Jarno, with those warmer tyres, is indeed going to take the lead of the race.
Indeed, a brilliant move there from Jarno Ootmeijer, of course, needed to make the move as early as possible and didn't really have to do much at all. It was pretty much gifted to him there through the first couple of corners, as we do see Jack West retiring on track. Hasn't retired in the pit lane, decided to continue on and then click that retire button. So not ideal there for Jack West, but not sure what happened to Angelo, because he was right with Jarno Ootmeijer and then ended up 2 seconds back as they headed into turn 1. So I'm not sure there was a mistake made there for Angelo D'Altenzio. But he is in that DRS now of Jarno Ootmeijer and those behind. So it is Jarno Ootmeijer that leads the race in 15th. But of course, net P1 ahead of Pookie, Lawrence, Halliday and D'Altenzio, as Otis Lawrence is looking for a move here ahead of the Mercedes as they head out to turn 12. Back down towards turn 16. That gap's less than a tenth. This could certainly be a move here for Lawrence. Is going to look to pull to the outside as Pookie's hugging that inside barrier. As Joshido goes ahead of Ismail Fassi. Now to the inside goes Otis Lawrence, and I don't think that Pookie's going to really provide much of a defence here down towards turn 16. Onto the brakes they go, and let's see who's going to feature into net P2. They go wide, and it's always such a tricky corner to make it side by side through, but Lawrence gets the move complete and now moves into net P2.
Yeah, just Lawrence up to net P2. Good move from him, and Van Pookie's going to try and fight him back. It's going to be 3 wide into the first corner. Jan Halliday is going to see himself around the outside line, and it gets very, very tight between the drivers, and Otis remains ahead. But Jan now ahead of his Van Pookie. Net P3 for the Aston Martin. He's going to want to fight further forward. Otis is going to try and stay within range, and it makes sense for all the drivers to stay within range of Jarno Opmeer now, because of course, they don't want to lose too much time to those ahead, otherwise the undercut is not going to work, and they're just going to end up not in a very good position with bad tyres at the end of the race. So just stay within DRS, allow Jarno to hold that lead of this pack unless they get DRS and are able to burst their way through down the back straight. But anything other than that, anything that's going to lose them time, let Jarno lead. Let him guide them through, because he's got the warm tyres, and well, any fighting that anybody does in that pack, they're going to be at a significant disadvantage heading on to lap number 10. It looks like Joris Cruisen is going to take the lead of the race, or either of them are going to come into the pit lane. We will find out as they head out of the final couple of corners, and they will head out towards... It's kind of a straight and then a kink before the start-finish line. Are either of them going to dive in on this lap? Of course, not many drivers on the mediums, and it's dwindling. Cruisen and Klaffenbach continue on. Lucas Blakely dives into the pit lane. And oh, what's happened to Lucas Blakely? 10-second time penalty. I think he's just locked up at a bad time.
Yeah, that is not good at all for Lucas Blakely. He was on for a very good result in P6 net, and unfortunately takes a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Shanika Clay got into the thick of it down towards turn 16. I think he caught a bit of damage on his car, goes into the pits and retires from the session. And then we have a battle between Pookie and Halliday. Through the final corner they go. Sorry, through turn 3 they go. Back down towards turn 5, and Halliday keeps that position ahead of Esteban Pookie, of course, our pole sitter. But Lucas Blakely, even with damage still on the charge, he goes ahead of Angelo D'Ortenzio into 17th. That's a net P5 for Lucas Blakely, but of course he does have that penalty, which will hinder him all race long.
It certainly will. It's not great for Lucas Blakely there, who's going to try and recover. He's going to hope that there's a safety car of some sort that can drag him back into it. But I think he's just going to fight for it as if nothing has happened. He's going to fight for it for the on-track position rather than anything else. And I think that's the attitude that you should be taking to these kinds of fights. When you've kind of lost it, if you're not holding up any other drivers and actually compromising their races, then I really don't mind trying to fight at all. I think it shows very good spirit to not give up on the race just yet, as we will head on to lap number 12 in just a couple of moments' time. Is Julian Klaffenbach shaping to dive into the pit lane? I don't know, because he's lagging all over the track for me, but it looks like he's going to continue on. Joris Cruisen is going to continue on as well. So as I say, the medium runners are dwindling, and that's going to be another couple into the pit lane. Ishmael Fassi, Tamas Gal, Bench Sabo Konyo actually continues. So Fassi and Gal come in again. I think there's going to be problems with the pit lane there, as Brezhnev decides that that's going to be it for his race. I think there's something wrong with the pit lane, because surely 3 drivers can't have sped in the pit lane.
It's just such a tricky pit lane to get right. It's such a weird angle on the way in, and of course Blakely, Gal and Prejnada all coming off worse in terms of that one, so not good at all for the 2 V carbs. And then of course one of the Sol McLarens, of course Jack Ross has already DNF'd by that point, so not a good race for McLaren, not a good race for V-Carb as it stands. But could be very good here for Kick Saber, with Thomas Ronhard now up into 4th place. Has made many moves in this race, of course. Many have also pitted, but still a brilliant drive so far from the Kick Saber driver. And then of course Julian Klaffenbach in the lead, still ahead of Joris Kroes, and I'm sure they'll look to head into the pit shortly. Of course, they're looking now just to get a nice offset compared to Jarno Opmeer and Otis Lawrence and co, as Joris Kroesen does take the lead of the race. Once again, lap 12 of 25, but now just over the halfway point as Tycho Hardy makes a move ahead of Declan Barrett. Up into P6 for Hardy, down to 7th for Barrett. It's not been the best race for Williams either. Haven't quite got the pace, it seems, there with P7 and P8 for Barrett and Brodie. Otis Lawrence once again swaps with Opmeer for the lead, and that's what we'd love to see. Lawrence and Opmeer both have the race intelligence just to stay out, just to stay with each other and just keep swapping that DRS, and that's a lovely thing to see, because now they're going to bring that gap between themselves, Joris and Julian, a little bit. That gap will come down a little bit more.
it's going to come down, and it's going to keep coming down as now we get the last couple of medium runners, apart from Bench Sabo Konyi, into the pit lane. And, well, Daniele Parodi, actually, is going to be the first driver to make the switch onto the medium compound of tyre on lap number 17 of this race. Why not take a gamble at this point from the Williams? As, yeah, now the pack sort of starts to promote themselves. Otis Lawrence is in 7th place. And, well, Bench Sabo Konyi, Declan Barrett, Hardy, Hoffland, Ronhar and Ido, of course, all still need to pit. And when are they going to come into the pit lane? That is the question that will be discovered very soon. It's Van Pookie fighting with Jan, who gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. That's unfortunate there from the Aston Martin. And that looks like that's going to cost his race as well.
Yes, I could see potentially that being removed because it was a little bit of contact between himself and if Van Pookie's... Oh, what's happened there to Pookie? He got 10-second penalty for cutting the corner and gaining a place.
That's for Jan. That's
oh,
for
sorry.
That's the problems there, where it's for the same incident, really. So
very weird.
Well, yeah. Of this game, anyway. It just feels as though that he's been punished twice for one thing. Either way, he will be the first driver into the stewards' room to defend that, I would imagine, knowing what he is like. Ayano Otmir swaps with Otis Lawrence once again, and this feels like it's going to be the par for the course in this race, as Pookie gets very close to the back of Jan Halliday once again. Of course, this is for on-track P3. If Jan can get rid of that penalty, this is going to be for P3 overall. And so it's high stakes for the Aston Martin against the Mercedes.
Indeed, and this isn't looking too bad here for Julian Klappenbach and Joris Krozen. Of course, a 5-lap offset to Jarno Otmir and 4-lap offset to many others. And they got back within the DRS train and could certainly look to pose a threat here in this race as they make their way down towards turn number 5. And I've just seen someone in the chat saying Jarno should pit again. I don't think I've ever heard something so ridiculous in my life. Jarno pits again. He's out of the race completely in terms of points, so I hope he doesn't do that as we continue our way on. And then, of course, Joris will be looking to get some moves done early. Of course, his main priority now is get past Angelo. Angelo's got the oldest tyres of all of these in that leading train, so his job is just get ahead of Angelo. Lucas, I don't think, will fight as hard because of his penalty. I don't think he's going to be as bothered to defend that one, because either way, he knows he's going to lose that. But as I say that, he's looking to make a move ahead of Istvan, so, you know, shoot me. I'm wrong, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of this race occurs. 11 laps to go. Declan Barrett drops behind Tycho, even Hardy. That's going to be for 4th place. I keep saying Tycho. It is Tycho. I know that. And it will go in eventually. It's Van Pookie remaining very, very close to the back of Jan Halliday, keeping the Aston Martin under pressure. And this is really where Jan can be tested, in World Online Racing Tier 1 with all of the top drivers. Has his resolve improved and improved? We'll know that by seeing how much he fares, how well he fares against a top F1 esports driver in Van Pookie. At the moment, he's faring not bad. He did remain side by side, so he has got that penalty, but it's likely that he's going to be able to remove that. And at the moment, other than that moment, he's doing pretty well.
Certainly. And another move made here for Joris Krozen goes ahead of Angelo D'Ortenzio. And of course, we said he needed to get that move done quickly. It didn't look like it was much of a task at all there for Joris, as next on the cards for Angelo will be Julian, but of course he'll be going for that probably down towards turn 16. He hasn't quite got the grip through turn 6 and 7. He was actually going to go for it down towards turn 9, but had to back out there as he wasn't quite alongside the Ferraris. They make their way through, and Julian already actually on the back of Angelo. Maybe he's going to go for it down to turn 12. No, I think he's a little bit too far back, aren't they? As they make their way onto the brakes. And of course, with the gap, so everybody now on the mediums has pitted. The only guys left to pit are the top 5 who are on the hards. They're going to go, I presume, to mediums, possibly softs, but I really highly doubt that. So the question is now, what can Ron Har and Ido and Hoffland do with their strategy? Because they're 3 seconds up the road ahead of Barrett and Hardy, so they still have a chance possibly of being involved in the race.
They certainly do, and I think that's exactly what they're going to try to do as well. As there's a couple of switches further down. Otis Lawrence gets through on Jarno, and well, it's going to be Julian Klappenbach through on Angelo D'Ortenzio. He's going to find it very easy, I think, as the Joris Krozen to sight their way through the field. And well, that's if they don't fight each other. Klappenbach getting caught up with Krozen, but getting through in the end pretty nice and easily. And I'd say Julian Klappenbach is in a very, very good position to win this race. Of course, get your race predictions in the chat. We asked before the start of the race, and now that it's sort of starting to shape itself out, let us know again who's going to win. And at the moment, of course, Jan Ottmeier, he's in second place. He's in behind Otis Lawrence, who's currently the leader. Jan Isfan, and well, unlikely that Lucas is going to be able to go again. Of course, he's got that 10-second for the pit lane. Jan does have that penalty. Likely that that's going to be removed. So I'd say he's still in the fight for it. But of course, you've got Klaffenbach and Cruisen, who are hard charging on fresher tyres.
Certainly, so I'm just keeping an eye there on Blakely, who, despite the penalty, has had some brilliant pace, and it's such a shame that he does have a penalty. Otherwise, this could be a really good result here for Lucas. He's had a pretty poor start, I think it's safe to say, to F125, so I'm sure he would have been very happy to take some points away, but it seems like at the moment that will not be the case. But Julian Klaffenbach now is on the charge, and actually Julian got past Joris because of Joris making a mistake trying to overtake Lucas. Joris went for a move, had to back out of the chicane, and then of course lost all the momentum down towards turn one, and that allowed Julian to go through. So very good there from Julian to capitalise off mistakes for those further ahead and make a move from it. Of course, as it stands, it'll be Lawrence, Ottmeier, Halliday the top three, but of course because of penalties, Halliday will drop down, so it will be Istvan Pukki net P3, and oh my, all of the hard runners pit together, every single one of them. So this could be good for those guys because there's a train of 5 of them that can work together and push themselves forward now. So where does Ron Hart come out in this? He comes out in P10, and Tamashgal again! I think he did that on purpose because he already got a penalty and he shot into the pits again. So maybe that was done by purpose on Tamash. I can't see him making the same mistake twice.
Yeah, I don't imagine he would. That's a shame from Tamash Gal. But what, I mean, not necessarily Tamash Gal's retirement, but seeing everybody into the pit lane, what that does mean is that we get straight fights for the lead. We don't have to speculate to call it provisional P1, provisional P2. We get to just talk about it like it is. And of course, it's very, very good fighting for the top at the moment. I think Klaffenbach and Cruisen are going to be making serious moves over the next few laps, and Klaffenbach already looking to the inside of Lucas Blakely into every single braking zone, trying to find an opportunity. Blakely hasn't cracked yet. We know that he won't crack easily, and he's just run over the curb there. Have we just seen a crack in the Scots armour as Klaffenbach gets very close to the back of him? He's got the most slipstream you will ever have behind a car down the longest straight, and he will now have DRS. So will Blakely, but it's just going to be just that little bit more powerful. Klaffenbach tries to step out of it and maybe go to the outside line. Yes, he does, as Blakely defends the inside. They're going to be going through the chicane side by side. Who's going to come out on top? Blakely is going to try and squeeze Klaffenbach, and he gets the exit. He goes through. Notice Lawrence retakes that lead.
Legion Angelo coming back here at Joris Cruisen down towards turn one. We've got a fight up at the lead as well between Ottmeier and Lawrence, as to the outside once again goes Klaffenbach. Of course, for him, he needs to score as many points as possible. He is the championship leader, and starting P2, we would love to try and get a podium. He goes around turn 3 ahead of Lucas Blakely, but Blakely gets ahead on the exit. Down to turn 5 they go. A brilliant battle here between Klaffenbach and Blakely as they head into turn 5. Who's going to keep that 5th place? I think it's Blakely still. Julian's on the outside as they head through in towards turn 6 and 7 at the chicane. And I don't think the move can be made unless Julian does throw it to the outside. He has to get the inside line through in towards turn 8, then back to the outside at turn number 9. This is brilliant racing, and Julian just proves he wants to get ahead. He's showing and trying his hardest to make that move, and he does so. And next through on Blakely will be Joris Cruisen. He moves up into P6, and then it's time for Thomas Ron Hart to enter the equation. Start of lap 18, the gap was 2.5 seconds. End of lap 18, well, halfway through, it's 2.5 tenths.
Yeah, very, very close for Thomas Runhara, and now he's trying to go for the move on Angelo D'Ortenzio. With that DRS, he's going to be on the inside line all the way down the straight, but he just tucks back in because he knows that he needs that slipstream as Cruisen gets through on Klaffenbach, Fassi gets through on Blakely. Can Ronhard do the same thing on D'Ortenzio? I think he's going to have to send it if he does want to, and he's not going to do so on this occasion. His tyres are in much better condition at this part of this race. And he's going to be trying to come through once again on the inside of Angelo D'Ortenzio, you would imagine, into the first corner. But no, he's not going to be close enough. D'Ortenzio's going to get the run. He's going to be alongside Blakely, and he's going to try and make his way through as well. As well, it looks like there's so many fights going on in this circuit. Jan tried to go for an attack on Jarno. Blakely remains alongside Angelo D'Ortenzio. And at the moment, it looks like the fight between D'Ortenzio and Blakely has helped Ronhar. He's gotten through on 1, and if he can outbrake the other one, which he can, he gets through on 2, and maybe even 3. He's sent it to the inside of his teammate. Thomas Ronhaar deciding very last minute to go for a move on Klappenbach. And, well, he's done so in the end. That opens the door to Angelo D'Ortenzia once again, as Blakely and Hoffland are now side by side in the background. There's a little bit of desync as Josh Edo is in this fight as well. And he and Duncan Hoffland are inside each other as they head out of the first sector.
I mean, that's a surprise there to see Ronhaar and Klappenbach come into contact. It's not very often these two ever do that. They're normally brilliant working together, but I think because Julian did have a bit of a slow run into turn 5, so I think Ronhaar thought, oh, he's letting me through. Goes through. Julian's actually like, no, I was trying to turn for the corner. And boom, they both make contact. And, well, Thomas Ronhaar got the move done in the end. Next for Ronhaar is going to be Ismail Fassi. Easy move, done and dusted. Into P6 now for the kick saber. Remember, Ronhaar started 20th. He's now up into P6. It's been brilliant so far from him. As further ahead, it's Joris Krozen looking to make the move ahead of Istvan Pukki. Can't quite get ahead there. So slots back into P5. Further ahead, Jan Halliday still looking to make a charge on Jarno Otmir, but can never quite find the run into any of the braking zones, unless Julian now can look for a move on Ismail Fassi. Into turn 1 they go, he backs out. And Lucas Blakely, again, another 10-second penalty. I think he's called it a day. A big shame for Blakely. What a race result it could have been for him if he didn't get that initial penalty.
It certainly could have been very, very good. And, I mean, I'm agreeing with Luke in the chat here, and this is what my initial thoughts were. I think Thomas Ronhaar just missed his braking point, and that's why he went into the side of his own teammate.
Oh, contact, and that's Julian into the wall.
Very huge.
Damage for Julian Klappenbach into the barriers. Contact with Duncan Hoffland at turn 5. What a shame that is for our championship lead, and no points will be scored here for Julian Klappenbach. And that really does open up the arms here for Jarno Otmir and Ismail Fassi.
It certainly does. Huge opportunities for them now as Julian Klappenbach off the back, and he won't be picking up points here today. And that is a huge incident. And well, that's just the build-up effect of, you know, a little bit of contact with your teammate leads to maybe a little bit of head loss, I think, at this point, as it's very, very unfortunate for Klappenbach, and he's now down at the back of this field. Jarno Otmir, Ismail Fassi, very, very good positions. Jarno in a much better position now to take that championship lead than Ismail. He's in P2, but is that going to last for very long? Jan Halliday looking to the inside, he backs back out, and so he's not going to make that move just yet. But the Aston Martin looking very, very close, very, very big in the mirrors of the Red Bull, and he'll be trying to go through again as Ronhaar is going to make himself available in this fight as well. He's on the inside of Pukki. He gets through. Ronhaar's up to 4th place, and this is about to get very spicy for the podium positions.
It certainly is, and Ronhaar's really cemented himself into this battle. He's had some brilliant pace around this circuit, and starting last, I didn't expect to see him up in the top 4. I thought a top 10 was on the cards, but never mind, a potential podium here for Thomas Ronhaar as we head down towards turn number 5. There's cars all over the road, as that I think is Josh Edo looking to make a move, and nearly ended up in the back of Ismail Fassi. He goes through into 7th place for Josh Edo, as we see here. Further behind, Joris Krozen looking to make a move ahead of Istvan Pukki. They go side by side through turn 7 and 8. Into turn 9 they go, and Krozen does get the move done ahead of Pukki. Julian Klappenbach, our championship leader, is out of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Big shame for him. Definitely could make a turning point here in the championship. Of course, Jarno Otmir, who is 23 points back, could maybe outscore him by 18. This is big for Jarno Otmir. Thomas Ronhaar now looking to make the move ahead of Jan Halliday up into 3rd. What can he do now against Jarno Otmir here?
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely huge for Jarno Otmir. It's going to be huge for Thomas Ronhaar as well if he's able to pull this one off. It would be a very, very good drive. He's got 4 laps to go till the end, and just a little bit more. There's a bit of a straight to go before they head down towards lap number 22 here. Jan Halliday is going to be hoping, praying that it's going to be very close between Ronhaar and Otmir so the Aston Martin can sneak through. I don't think it's all said and done yet for Jan Halliday, as Ronhaar is going to look to the inside. His course, he's going to send it into turn number 1. Can he get the traction on the exit? Yes, he can. Thomas Ronhaar's up to 2nd place, and he sets his sights now on Otis Lawrence for the lead. Jan's not been able to make his way through, so Jarno is going to be trying to attack back with the DRS. Is Thomas Ronhaar going to be close enough just yet? I don't think so on Otis Lawrence. They remain in behind, but Thomas looking very big, looking very scary. I'm not sure how hard Otis is going to want to fight this.
I mean, if I'm Otis, I'm going to fight this as heavily as I can, because it's still the battle for the win here. Of course, the battles are closing in further behind as Josh Edo's looking to enter the battle now. He's P6 on the back of Joris Krozen, who's also Still got better tyres than Jan Halliday and Jarno Opmeer. But then, of course, Thomas Ronhart is the main one here, looking just to slice his way through the field. And we'll see what he can do now as they head through into turn 12, then down towards turn number 16. Of course, Ronhart can make the move, but I don't think he's got the pace to pull a second over Otis. So even if he does get that, get ahead and has that gap to Otis, Otis will still get DRS, and that can still pull him into that battle for the lead. So let's see what Thomas Ronhart chooses to do. As I want to look a little bit further back potentially, unless Ronhart goes for a move. No. Let's see what Josh Ido can do, because he was all over the rear there of Joris Kroesen, but also chooses to sit back through into turn 16. And then, of course, back down to turn 1 we go. And this is a run here for Thomas Ronhart to take the lead away from Otis Lawrence. I think Thomas wants to hold back. He wants to keep that DRS, and that's really strategic here from Thomas. But, of course, if he gets caught off guard, there's always that chance for Jarno Opmeer to make a surprise.
There certainly is. He's not going to want to be out of it just yet. He's not going to want to be in that lead just yet, knowing how strong that DRS is. Looking to the inside of Otis Lawrence, though, it looks like he might be forced to try and go for a move to the inside line. He takes it, and that's going to be Thomas Ronhart in the lead of the race. Otis Lawrence is going to have the DRS, and so this is a crucial time, because I think, now that I've thought about it, that Thomas Ronhart's going to get ahead. He's going to allow Otis back through, and then he's going to get back through. It's going to be DRS chicken towards the end of the race. Of course, all nice and legal, because he's not going to be brake checking. He's not going to be moving last minute. It's just simply swapping that DRS again and again and again. As 23 of 25 now, and Ronhart is really trying to extend that gap. It doesn't look like he wants to play any sort of chicken. He wants to break free, and he's got 7/10 on Lawrence.
He has done so, as further back there, Angelo D'Ortenzio round in towards turn 12, and actually backwards before the braking zone. So I'm not sure if he got tapped into the back of there. Big shame for Angelo, who's also looking for a couple of points in this race, pardon me. So he's now going to be finishing 14th at maximum here as we head back down towards turn number 16. What a race this has been by Josh Ido. Not often we see him on the podium here in WOR Tier 1, and he could be looking to take another one here, and one of not many. As we head back down towards the final corner to begin the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. It's Thomas Ronhart that leads ahead of Otis Lawrence, and he's nearly pulled that 1 second gap.
He nearly has. He's nearly done it, has Thomas Ronhart. And it looks like towards the next detection zone, he may well have done it. This might be Thomas Ronhart's race to lose now. He is so very quick, and he's managed to extend that gap. So I think that's going to be Angelo D'Ortenzio out of this race in the penultimate lap. Jarno's going to get through on Otis with the DRS, and that is going to be the end of Angelo's day, unfortunately. He did so well last time out. He was doing not too badly here, but that is going to be his day said and done. The two Alpines, 3rd and 4th, they're going to have a huge opportunity to try and attack Jarno Opmeer. They can work as a team as well as they head down towards what will be the penultimate time that we go down the fastest straight on the calendar this season. Can we get any opportunity for any of these drivers to fight? I don't think anybody's going to be catching Opmeer, Ronhart even. This is the fight for P2.
It certainly is, and of course Josh Ido's the best one in this battle in the sense of having that way crusher tyre and also the softer compound of tyre compared to Opmeer and Otis Lawrence. Of course, Thomas Ronhart has absolutely blew away with this race. It's been a perfect strategy from him in the team, and I think that should just be done and dusted for him. But of course, the main battle is now for second place. Opmeer defending a P2, of course, with Julian Klavenbach not continuing in this race. P2 is a must here for Jarno. He needs to bring that gap down as much as he possibly can. As we head back down towards turn number 1, let's see who goes for a move. I'm on board here with Josh Ido as we head on to the final lap of the race. Let's see if he can go for a podium. He'd love to finish on the podium here. I don't think he's had one in over 3 seasons.
No, and it would be so very good if he gets the opportunity to do so here today. He's behind his teammate at the moment with the medium compounded tyres, which are going off at this point in this stint. So he's not going to have much traction in terms of the tyres, but nor is Otis Lawrence. He's done 16 laps on those hards, so it's pretty much level pegging between the two, and it's just down to when they fight each other right at the very end of the race. And I don't think Otis is going to make this very easy for his teammate, and Jan in behind as well. He'll be hoping to pounce upon any incident between these two, or maybe even between Opmeer or Otis Lawrence when they get down to the DRS. Lawrence is looking so close to the back of Opmeer. They are pretty much nose to tail as they head down towards what will be the next braking zone and the penultimate braking zone of the lap. Is Otis going to be able to take the outside line? No, not quite yet. He doesn't quite have the overspeed. He tries to brake a little bit later to try and push Jarno Opmeer off guard, but now he's going to open up the DRS and he's going to try and get through. Ishmael Fassi's left the session, so he's not going to finish in the point today. That could be huge. He's going to drop 4 potentially crucial points at the end of this Grand Prix as Otis Lawrence pulls to the outside of Jarno Opmeer. He gets through and he gets into P2.
He certainly does, but of course back to the front of the field. 3.5 seconds of a gap back to second place. Thomas Ronhaar started last. It certainly is a last to first for the Dutchman as he heads to the line and wins round 9 of the WOR T1 Season 21 Championship. And it will be Otis Lawrence in second, Jarno Opmeer finishing in third with Josh Ito just off the podium in 4th place. But what a win there for Thomas Ronhaar to take the win by over 3.5 seconds. We was thinking once he pitted and he came out in 10th, he was only 2 seconds back from the train. I was thinking maybe he'll get a top 5 here. Never mind, he went even further and took the win in a dominant fashion.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable drive from Thomas Ronhaar. He drove all the way through the field, and that is just such an unbelievable drive. Only one mistake throughout those laps, and those laps he drove incredibly fast. Ronhaar wins ahead of Otis Lawrence. Jarno Opmeer makes it double Dutch on the podium, and Josh Ito got very close to making it double Welsh on the podium, but ended up in 4th. Istvan Pukki in 5th, and the 3rd Dutch driver in the top 6. Joris Cruzen is in that 6th place, of course. Then it's Barrett, Hardy, Hoffland, and Parody to round out the top 10. So not a bad ending to the race for the returning R8G driver. Ishmael Fassi, of course, ended up leaving the session on the last lap. So bottled P8, he dropped down to 11th and just outside of the points. And it's Sabo Konyi, Halliday, and Dortenzio, of course. Halliday being the final finisher, but with those 10-second penalties, or those 13 even. Then it's Klaffenbach, Blakely, Gal, Preschneider, Clay, and West who round out the field.
Certainly, but what a race that was. I mean, there's many drivers that we can talk about from that one and say how good of a job they did, but you can't really go past Ronhaar at all. That was an insane drive. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was going to be easier for him because of the fact he was on newer tyres and he was on the softer compound. But there was like 6 cars with him. None of them followed him through as much as I think the closest one to him was what P4, which is Josh, but he was still 5 seconds down the road. So brilliant by Thomas. Of course, he played his card right. It could have been a lot different of a situation if he couldn't get those moves done early, but because of how early he got the moves done, it was then just a game of just pulling that 1 second gap over Otis. Once he could do that, then it's just drive to the end. He hasn't got to push. He hasn't got to try much harder. He's just got to get the car to the end, and he did so. And of course, it's a big shame that he's not in the championship fight. I mean, we'll have a quick look at the standings, of course, from last round, and Ronhaar's not even in the top 10 at all, which means I think he will jump into the top 10 now with another 25 points added on. But you got to think what it could have been for him if he was up into that top part of the championship. I mean, that was a champion's drive.
It certainly was, and I mean, think about it. The late charge they can make this season, he could be in it if the likes of Klaffenbach end up having more problems like Klaffenbach had today, for example. So if another driver maybe has an incident, maybe someone else sends it on the inside of Klaffenbach and ruins his race, then you've got even more points to be opened up. Maybe that happens to Opmeer. Maybe Opmeer doesn't turn up a couple of weeks. There's still plenty of opportunities. It's just about maximising his chances. And from going to last to first, Ronhaar's done incredibly well. I don't think he's interested in the championship fight because he's starting last intentionally, but he's very much got the pace for one.
I mean, I don't think he's in the mood for a championship fight because he's currently 16th in the standings. They have been updated by Luke very quickly. Of course, a big thanks to Luke. And of course, pre-penalties, it means the gap at the top is 6 points between Klaffenbach and Opmeer. Very close indeed heading into round 10 of the championship. And the mad part is, since round 3, Nicholas Longue has not scored a point. He's still third in the championship, 10 points behind Klaffenbach. That is insane. And you've got to think, if Nicholas was turning up for the rest of the races here this season, he's missed 4 of the last 5, I think he would have run away with the championship already because he was dominant in those first couple of rounds.
You know what I think the problem is? Every
What?
single race Nicholas hasn't raced, I've been commentating. Every single race he has
Ah.
raced, I haven't been commentating. So maybe he just hates me. I've commentated on him in other things. He's won in other things,
Yeah.
but maybe there's just something about me and WOR that just doesn't gel for him. But either way, I mean, it's impressive that he's been able to hold it up there, but I think it does show how much the points have been spread out throughout the
Yeah.
season. I mean, you've got Thomas, as you say, 16th place. That's his first points of the season. Freddie Rasmussen, he got a victory. That was his only points of the season. So it's just so very spread out between the drivers. If you look between 10th and 28th, there's 20 points between them. And then you look between the gap between the top four, there's less than 20 points between them. It's so very, the points are so very well distributed that it could be anyone's game.
It certainly could be. I think realistically, you're looking at the top four at the moment to be in that championship fight. But then again, Otis is only 30 back. It's not the biggest gap in the world for him to bring down. And if you want to put anybody in a position where they have to bring the gaps down, I wouldn't mind putting Otis Lawrence in that position. I'm sure he'll do a great job of trying to bring that gap down for Julian. But of course, with the absence of the absence of Nicholas and the DNF of Julian and the disconnection of Ismail Fassi, it's just allowed Uppbeat to jump up into second quite easily and now have his, get closer to having another hand on a title here in WOR. And I don't think, unfortunately, we have anybody here for an interview, which is a shame. Always good to speak to people after the race, but nobody is in the interview chat. So I think that will be it here for round 9 of the championship. Of course, a big congratulations to Thomas Ronhaar, who took the win in the end. A quick reminder of the calendar for the remaining races. Of course, we're back next week for Abu Dhabi for round 10. Then we head off to Great Britain, Belgium, and then Bahrain being our finale. So, guys, make sure to join back here. Same time next week, 7 o'clock here on Thursday. I'm sure Monday as well is the start of the main season. So you can catch all the action of tiers 2, 3, and 4 over there. So make sure to head over to our other tiers and give them a watch. And we'll be back next week. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you then. Good night.